Listen. Oh, sorry. Listen. I'm going to need the bitching to go down to a minimum. What is this What is this? Late, always late. I'm pretty sure you sent that at 10:30. I started the fucking stream at 10:27, maybe 10:28, and the intro hasn't even been a full 5 minutes. Stop the bitching. That's not the vibe that I need. I'm just kidding. It doesn't really faze me. I just kind of like yelling at you guys. The jet lag is wearing off. I'd say yesterday I felt 60%. Today I probably feel 82%. I did go get a massage yesterday, although it sucked. My normal lady wasn't there. It was kind of an emergency massage. My lady, her name's Helen. That's not her real name, but that's what she calls herself, was not there. Somebody filled in for her, and it was terrible. And but I did go to the sauna, and I feel much better. Steak, are you ready to roll? You look ready to roll. What's that hat you got on?
Always a random baseball team, but you'll always ask.
Do you not have college? I guess you don't. You don't really have college hats, do you?
I mean, God, you want me to wear a fucking Gators hat after that performance this weekend?
No. But like, you know, I think I want to up my my college vintage attire, if that makes sense. Like, not necessarily jerseys, but every time I see, you know, obviously if you live in Brooklyn, you got a lot of hipsters around here. They wear like vintage shit, and they don't really care for sports. But I will say some of the stuff that they wear, I'm like, damn, that's a fucking cool shirt. And you know, vintage is a premium, so the shirt was probably $140. But like, old heads like my dad, so the real boomers, they see kids nowadays like at Target, they sell these like fucking Kiss shirts and stuff, and like, these little rugrats wear these band shirts. They don't even know a song. That's kind of how I feel sometimes where I see a school or somebody wear like an Arkansas State shirt, you know, and I'm like, that actually looks kind of cool. I wish I had some of those. I have the Bradley shirt. I probably should have worn that. Anyways, I'm just kind of going on a long-winded thing of how I've realized I don't have very good college football apparel, not even for my own team. But no, you can't wear a Gators hat. That was embarrassing. And actually, if it's okay with you, before we get started and get into the board, I know we've got 153 eyeballs in here, probably between Twitter and YouTube and Twitch. Good morning. Jovan's going to be on. Thank you, Steak, for hopping in. Steak is definitely going to be more, present in terms of the streams and whatnot. Now the football's on because he's a football guy. I've officially hung it up for baseball. I know you've hung it up as well, probably back in the summer, which I completely am okay with and respect that people do that. Baseball is a bitch, and I feel great. I missed week 0. I missed week 1 in college football. But from what I've gathered, I've been doing a lot of catching up. I don't really think I missed that much. And from, you know, the community, I don't know that anybody really had much success, which obviously doesn't bring me joy or any pleasure to say that. But I've always found that trying to go all in or heavy early in college football is really, really tough because it's hard to get a pulse and a grasp on these teams, these coaches, etc. So, Steak, you gambled, you wagered. It sounds like you did okay. I don't know if you won or lost, but I don't think you got your nuts kicked in. So what would you say, fuck week 0, but what would you say, like, takeaways from week 1? What did you come out thinking or not thinking? And don't say anything about Michigan because we're going to talk about that later.
Okay. Let's see. I came away thinking that there were some bad performances, obviously. Some of them, I think, are victim of teams just not wanting to show all their stuff against an opponent like Idaho, for example. Mm-hmm. And then there's some teams who I think looked really bad. On the other hand, there's a few teams I think looked really good. Miami being one of them. Like, yes, I think the Gators might be complete dog shit. But any way you slice it, Cam Ward's first game playing for Miami, going into the swamp and doing that, and honestly making it look effortless, because it looked effortless. I mean, bro, the guy was walking out of bounds on 20-yard scrambles. I actually never seen anything like that before. He scrambled for 20 yards and walked for like 2 yards out of bounds. Like, there was defenders nowhere around him. It was a dominant performance. And after watching Clemson and obviously Florida State, it's just hard not to see Miami winning the ACC and making the college football playoff. Maybe that's a really common thought now, but that's definitely my first one that I think I'm forced to buy in on. I know
that's really good. Hold on. Are you going to move on or are you going to add on to Miami?
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm glad you actually brought that up. That's a really good takeaway. I saw some clips, not even going out of my way to search for them, just everything that was on my feed. And I saw, you know, I was like kind of following. I did my best to like stay disconnected. And you did a really good job of that too when you took your trip. Where'd you go? The mountains, Utah or something like that?
Yeah, Utah.
Yeah, it looked fucking great, by the way. But I told myself, like, I'm gonna be disconnected. I'm gonna try not to, pretend I have to go to the bathroom more than I already do, and go to the, take a piss when I'm out dinner with my wife and check my phone 17 times. Everybody knows that fucking signature move. And so I told myself, I'm like, I'm betting Florida. It's more of a fade of Miami than it is a bet on Florida. Did I feel like it was crazy to see the Gators getting points in the Swamp? Sure, but at the end of the day, like, they're a team with a 4.5 win total. Miami's got a lot of hype. I didn't really think too much into it. I said, fuck it, let's fade Miami. But the clips that I saw were both actual highlights of Cam Ward and then the shit talking from Miami. I definitely, out of everything, that was like my prisoner of the moment overreaction, which there are always times where you say, like, okay, I'm overreacting, I'm going to take a step back, or you're just like, I'm just going to react to this, and this is probably going to be the case. If there is one team from what I saw, I would probably say, all right, I might be in on Miami.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you agree with that.
I agree with that, but there's two things I'll add. Number one, I heard the Cam Ward comments about how the Swamp isn't loud as Oregon. And it's like, of course, the Swamp isn't as loud as Oregon. Oregon was beating your ass. You beat the Gators' ass by 20, and you jumped on them early. Like, of course, it's not going to be loud when you're winning 38-10. And then the thing where they talk to the recruits, that happens all the time. Remember LSU, Alabama, when Joe Burrow beat them, and it was like the first time they beat them in 4 or 5 years? That's all LSU was doing, was going up to Alabama recruits. When you're competing for the same guys, and then you get on the field after a whole summer of talking shit, that always happens. But don't get me wrong, it was badass, and as a Gators fan, it hurt my feelings, but it always happens.
Okay. Hey, real quick, by the way, Crutch said my mic sounds like shit. I just realized I think the volume was turned all the way up. Did you notice that I sound bad, or do I sound any better?
I didn't really notice you sound bad.
Okay. I had some issues with this yesterday, too. Please let me know if I sound like shit, because we're going to be going through 78 college football games, and I don't want to sound like shit. Well, thank you. Just loud as fuck. Okay.
Really?
How about now? How about now? Now? Any different? It sounds like you're too close. Mic is hot. Yeah. Sound great. Okay. Miami good, but Florida also very loud, Grandpa. Damn. Yeah. Sounds like less loud shit. Good. Okay. Yes. Way better. All right. Great. Awesome. Right. Very loud, Grandpa. RIP headphone user. Sorry about that. Miami good, but Florida also may just be very, very bad. Yeah. I think that's kind of what Steak alluded to. I guess that I'll never forget too, when the last time I almost bought into Miami. Actually, it wasn't just me. It was everybody bought into the U being back. Do you remember when everybody thought the U was back? Do you remember the game? Let's see if you remember.
Did they pound Notre Dame?
They pounded Notre Dame. I mean, fucking pounded them. And they had the turnover chain. Who could forget the turnover chain?
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, the U's back. Everybody thought the U was back. I'm going to really do my best to try to pump the brakes on this. I'm not going to run to bet on Miami, but I will definitely check myself on fading Miami. It makes me a little bit happier that I don't have anything on them again on the season win total. Another team in the ACC, Steak, I did not watch a second of Clemson. I did at least catch up a little bit on the Miami game. I saw some plays being made by Cam Ward, and I was like, okay, he looks pretty good. I didn't see a second of this game, and I don't necessarily think I even cared to, because I'm just so upset with myself that I got duped by Dabo. However, do you think this could be an overreaction on Clemson being asked because Georgia could be that good?
Yes, I think it could be an overreaction to some degree, because I actually think that there's a possibility that Georgia could do that to everyone in the country. But I don't think that it's that much of an overreaction. Like, Clemson isn't good, and Cade Klubnik still isn't good. It's a brutal first game, don't get me wrong, and they call it a neutral site, but it was all red, and I watched literally every second of the game. And even when it was 6-0 at half, which is kind of crazy, you knew damn well Clemson had no shot. You knew they had no shot all game. Mm-hmm. You could literally just tell by the line of scrimmage that eventually Georgia was going to rip this thing open, and they did. That was my only takeaway, is I'll probably put Clemson maybe 8-win team, 9-win team. And then the other one is that Carson Beck isn't going to be able to win the Heisman. He's not going to have enough chances to win.
Really?
The Heisman. Yeah, I don't think so at all. I do not think Carson Beck is a Heisman winner, but I do think he's like the Michael Jordan of Jake Fromm's.
Did you just think of that, or did you steal that?
I just thought of it.
That's actually really good.
Steal shit.
I'm just saying, you never know. I still ask. I got to treat everybody fairly. I know you're not a
both, Cam. Both.
Is it Cade or Dabo? Yeah, I do think Cade Klubnik is just not that guy. But man, I still come back to the whole reason I started to buy in on Clemson and took the over win total, which I'm not panicking because we never expected them to beat Georgia anyways. But I did at least expect them to maybe score a touchdown. And from what I heard, just listening to podcasts and shit, people talking about the weekend and stuff, it's not even really like their defense was that impressive. Which is usually, at least I think, the strong suit of Clemson. It's like every year they have a really good front seven or something.
You could argue holding Georgia to 6 at half is a pretty impressive accomplishment.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
I don't really have anything super negative to say about the defense. I mean, after Georgia did open up that game, but it took them quite a bit of time to get going.
Yeah. Okay. And then I know you're an Oregon backer, and I've heard like some people talk about them only scoring 24 points against Idaho. I don't think that really phases me at all personally. I'm still not necessarily, I'm not going to high on Oregon until I see it from Dylan Gabriel. I really think that there's going to be something with these teams or these players bouncing around to 3 different schools and maybe not having the cohesiveness. However, I think that's going to be probably what you want as an Oregon backer, just as how I feel that way about Michigan going into this weekend. Again, we'll talk about that later. I'm assuming there's no panic from you. Is there any other team? I don't care about Ole Miss putting up 76 on Furman. I think it's a joke they even played Furman. I tweeted that. Some people were saying like, oh, whatever, the fucking Notre Dame's got a soft schedule. I don't care that you play a cupcake. I just think Furman's not even a cupcake. I don't know what Furman is, but they're not. They're not even like a legitimate. I didn't even know they had a football team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for the most part, were there teams? I saw your read, your clip on SMU. Did you get any eyes on them? Do you think they might be a legitimate team to keep an eye on, or is that kind of one of those where you just from your explanation, which I love, it was more so just a team that burned everybody on a big number, then they had an even bigger number week 2. Anything to keep an eye on with SMU, especially if the ACC might be open?
They're high-powered offense for sure. I don't think there's any denying that, and they definitely played probably their worst game of the season, I would say, against Nevada. Pretty sure they played BYU this week, so that's an interesting one that we could talk about. But I did want to touch on Oregon because Oregon has an interesting one. They play Boise State this week.
Yep.
Boise State, the only thing everyone's talking about is Ashton Jeanty, who had 6 touchdowns and like almost 300 yards. But they're not mentioning that they also gave up like 40-something points to Georgia Southern. So if there's a game where I think Dylan Gabriel could and should go nuts, it's against this Boise State defense. So I think if you didn't get a good Gabriel performance after this week, that's when you start setting off like alarm bells.
So, by the way, I saw a lot of people were on Georgia Southern. Did you have any read on that game? Do you have any idea why? Was it a weird line or something like that? I think they ended up covering too, but I didn't understand. I don't know why so many people were on Georgia Southern end up coming through, but were you involved in that game?
No, I wasn't. Obviously, I'm really I have Ashton to win the Doak. So I was curious. Oh, no, I was involved. I tailed MJ on Boise State team total over.
Okay, gotcha.
And honestly, what a really good read by him because they went over the team total, but they didn't cover the spread. And basically his point was he only wanted to back the offense. He wasn't comfortable with the defense. So really good read. The defense looks like shit, man.
Yeah. I thought Alabama looked good transitioning from Saban to new coach. Yeah. Obviously, I'm a Milroe single bullet 2-unit Heisman winner. I saw Brandon Walker, SEC guy, works for Barstool, tweeted like the 5 Heisman things. And I just thought it was interesting to even acknowledge Jackson Dart's performance against Furman and not acknowledge Jalen Milroe, who I looked at the box score. He was 7 for 9, 200 yards, and 5 total touchdowns. And then I went and looked at the drives and, third quarter, 6 minutes left, the backup's already in. Mm-hmm. I know they played a nobody. I forget who it was. I don't know. Ball State. Western Kentucky. That's right. Western Kentucky. But again, Western Kentucky, I looked at their schedule last year. They went to a bowl. They won a bowl game. So scoring 5 touchdowns in 2.5 quarters against a team that won a bowl game last year, but you put up 76 against Furman, that does something to people's perception in the Heisman market. I didn't understand that at all. Yes, obviously I'm biased because I'm defending Milroe. Did you get eyes on Alabama at all?
Yeah, I watched a shit ton of football this
I
week.
know you did, and I'm glad
I was
you
really,
did.
really excited. So there's 3 teams I want to put in the same category, and the category is be excited as you can be for who they played. And one of them is Alabama. I think that's about as happy as you can be with the performance from Jalen Milroe playing Western Kentucky. The other 2 teams, Nebraska, Dylan Raiola, I think you can only be happy with his performance. And obviously they play Colorado this week. So if he's as good as advertised, he should torch that horrible defense that got torched by an FCS school. And then Tennessee, Nico Iamaleava, is that it?
I don't know. I'm not even going to try, but yes, Nico.
That guy looked like he just fucking I don't even want to be a slurper, but I'm going to say it. I know they played Chattanooga. His throwing motion just looks fucking NFL ready. He looks ridiculous, and he was hitting these guys in stride. I mean, he looked good, man. If I was a slurper, which I'm not, but I'm maybe going to turn into one, I would be really excited about the way he looked.
Okay. So you're buying Nico. We're buying Miami, I think, right? For the most part, like we're gonna agree that they're good. Sort of.
I'm at least I'm understanding why Miami is being bought. Let's say it that way. I understand the hype now. Going into the game against the Gators, I didn't fully understand it. I watched one Cam Ward game, and I understand the Miami hype now.
Okay, fair. I'm with you on that. And then the guy for Nebraska looked good. I didn't get eyes on him. I thought about taking Nebraska over their win total. I backed off. I ended up going with Wisconsin, who I saw Wisconsin was struggling in the first half. I forget who they played, but that didn't look to be a good debut for Tyler Van Dyke. Do you remember Western Michigan? Western Michigan, something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah.
They played like they weren't trying to score any points to the second half, which was so irritating.
Well, that's kind of the thing that these teams do in week 1, right? Like you got to be smart. You don't want to show your cards. It's definitely a tune-up game. You want to get some reps in there. But again, that's why I think Oregon is only scoring 24 points because they're probably not opening up the playbook. Last thing I want to talk about, and then we'll start getting into the board. Jovan's going to probably be here in about 5-10 minutes, which is fine. I don't want to get too far ahead before having him on. But USC and LSU, you did a great job. I have to give you credit on USC. You said it, that you love them. I said, whoa, pump the brakes. The line also just moved 1.5. I was like, wouldn't it suck if you were late? And you're like, I don't care. They're going to win outright. And I was like, no, they're not, because I'm a Brian Kelly defender, not as a human being, just as a football coach. I'm officially out. And I caught up. I watched that game for the most part. And I still thought LSU looked pretty good. I thought Nussmeier looked pretty good. I thought the defense at least looked improved. Like Miller Moss had to make plays, and I'll get to him in a second. But I tweeted it. I thought that the defense was at least in the vicinity of making a play, whereas before they were the worst secondary I think I'd ever seen in college football. Miller Moss, on the other hand, I think I came away with being very impressed. I heard on the Cover 3 podcast, this is something I didn't see because obviously it wouldn't make an 18-minute highlight video, but apparently he did have a lot of balls get knocked down at the line of scrimmage. He had like 5 balls get deflected or something. I guess he's not a very big guy, a very tall guy, but I was just very impressed. I wasn't familiar with this dude's game at all. I was so impressed because he just looked so poised and natural. And I was like, man, that's a big game for a dude in fucking week 1 in Vegas. And it was a back and forth game. And I just thought USC was very impressive. And I wouldn't be totally out on LSU by any means. Like they had a chance to pull away. I think they were up like 17-13 at one point, had possession, couldn't convert or something. The play calling in the second half ended up being bad. So I'm just curious before we start talking about the board. Do you agree with me? Maybe you're not too down on LSU, or are you buying all in on Miller Moss, or are you kind of pumping the brakes on that?
Well, I mean, I have Miller Moss to win the Heisman. So I was all in on him before. And I mean, I think we can all say that's about as happy as I could be. Obviously, maybe I needed another couple touchdown passes, but bro, the last drive was ridiculous. There was one ball he placed in there that was just insane. He made some insane throws. I think the only negative is what you said with the batted down balls, but bro, he looked really, really good. Miller Moss looked really good.
Okay. Well, I think that's probably enough catching up, at least for now.
You're forgetting one. I feel like you're doing it on purpose. Notre Dame.
Oh my God. I thought you were going to say Michigan State FAU.
No, I was not going to say that.
Yeah. So, okay. That's another one. Obviously I caught up on, I've been reading, I've been seeing these guys I follow pointing out some clips from the defense, the coverage, the plays. I guess So I was talking about this, no, not Monday. Was it yesterday? Briefly. And I was kind of shitting on Connor Weigman, whatever. And I think Jovan and somebody else kind of said, pump the brakes. Hazen, that's right. Pump the brakes. You were probably in the chat too. Notre Dame defensive masterclass. So, and a lot of people, I think Alan Dims, I haven't seen Alan comment yet here in YouTube if he's here. Alan was saying that I overreacted to two things. A&M is not that bad, and Penn State's not that good. Although I'm think Penn State's a team I'm going to keep an eye on this year, unfortunately. But Texas A&M, Notre Dame, dogfight back and forth. But Weigman, from everything I saw, did absolutely nothing all game. That defense is disgusting. Riley Leonard didn't really do anything great, but that last drive was clutch as fuck. He made a few plays when they needed to. Mitch Jeter, the kicker, fucking stone cold assassin. So what's your takeaway from someone that watched the game?
I think it's the flowers need to go to the Notre Dame defense. I'm not sold on Weigman at all.
Okay.
But I'm not ready to write him off because, bro, this looks like one of the better Notre Dame defenses I've seen. I'm sorry to do this to you, but I think you have every right to get excited as a Notre Dame fan.
Do you know who the defensive coordinator is for Notre Dame?
No.
It's Al Golden.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes, that is
Dude,
crazy.
Al Golden, the head coach of the Miami Hurricanes, who was fucking terrible, wore a fucking dress shirt and a tie and had a binder on like the book of success that he gave his players. I thought this guy was going to be so bad and such a dweeby hire. Some people are just meant to be coordinators. He's done a fantastic job. Okay, fair enough. So you're saying I got reason to get excited. I will tell you this. So I'm already planning ahead for Saturday. Obviously, I want a big weekend of football. I just got back from a vacation with my wife, so I have fucking free reign for the next couple of weekends. Go watch as much football as you want. Balance, quality of life, happy wife, happy life. I was looking at Saturday. There's not really that many marquee games or games I really care to watch. Even Notre Dame, like, yeah, I'm going to watch them, but I don't have to commit 3.5 hours to watch them play Northern Illinois. But Texas, Michigan's going to be my game at noon. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it kind of sucks as a fan. This is what I'm getting at. It sucks as a fan, in my opinion, at least, when your team is going to be good and they play nobody. And now I kind of realize what it's like to be an Ohio State or Michigan fan. You just have one or two games you have to win. And every week you just play nobody. Rutgers, Indiana, whatever, maybe an Iowa in there. I get it. I understand the pain and frustration. So, or I guess the cruise control, I should say, not pain and frustration. It's pain and frustration me as a competitive natured fan. By the way, shout out Gogo Dino in here. I know he's busy corporing it up. Thank you for the 5 sub bangs. BJ the DJ, Tiny Diego, IMNG, Adam Bomb, and YZ Bets. Enjoy a month of ad-free board reviews. And thank you to Steak for making the time as well. We got a hype train going here. LX GZN with a sub bang, a new subscriber 23 minutes ago. Welcome to the board review. We got over 100 in here on Twitch. We got 340 eyeballs on Twitter and YouTube. People are excited. Football's back. Juices are flowing. All right, Steak, let's talk about the board for this weekend. I am pulling it up right now. I'm going to, covers kind of change their format. And again, we should have Jovan in here in a few minutes, but we can go ahead and get the ball rolling. I mean, there's not like he's going to miss too much. Friday, we've got 3 games. I don't know that we really care to get involved with Indiana, although I do want to mention you have Indiana on the season over win total, and I did tell that they did not cover the spread of 26. They won by 24 against FIU, so that's good. I don't know if you watched them at all. That game stayed under 51.5. They're going to be a big favorite here against Western Illinois. We can probably just skip this game entirely, I would assume.
Yeah, obviously,
okay.
If we lose Western Illinois, our season bet is cooked. But
yep.
They didn't cover the spread, but they looked good.
Okay.
I feel very good about them.
All right. I like to hear that. So talk to me about SMU and BYU. SMU, it looks like, I'm going to pull up Action Network here because covers isn't really that accurate anymore with the lines. And I'm not here advocating that Action Network is the end all be all. You can use Wager Talk pregame, whatever you want. I just like this interface. So we'll go with the best guess here. Let's go. Let's change this to all markets. All right. So it looks like we got an opener 52.5 that has been bet up 3 points, 11.5 down to 10.5. What's your first thought on this game? Is the spread kind of a number you would expect it to be? It looks like BYU, I don't even know what they've done. They're 1-0 ATS on the year, 1-0 to the over. Let's see. They just beat a nobody 41-13. You got any interest in getting down on this game? No.
don't think I can go back to SMU, and I don't think I can put too much stake in saying that because I don't even remember the school they played, Houston Baptist or Houston College or whatever it was that they played last week. Like I'm was happy to see the offense get rolling again, but how much stake can I put into that?
Right.
I did kind of like SMU going into the season, and that's why after the Nevada performance, I wanted to back them, but I don't know. I just don't know enough about BYU. Kind of like they're a team nobody's discussing at all. And usually they get a little love, I feel like.
Yeah. I don't know that I have. This is not a matchup, even though it's on a Friday night and there's, I'm going to be itching. This is not anything that I'm really that interested in jumping all over. Looks like I'm just going by covers here because I can't pull up VSiN splits for some reason, but 62% of the bets are on BYU. 63% is on the over. Obviously, it's moved up a lot. I don't know. I mean, BYU's got to be one of those teams that didn't show anything in their first week. SMU has had 2 games under their belt, right? They're 1-1 ATS. A little bit more reps, but I don't know. If anything, I'm taking the dog with the points. Good with that?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Okay. Duke Northwestern, last game of the weekend. Last game of Friday night. Not even to the weekend yet. Excuse me. Duke Northwestern. Northwestern's a 3-point favorite. Somebody said they thought it was crazy Duke was getting points. Total at a nice, cool 37. Let's see. Duke beat Elon. I remember, you know what I said to somebody in this game that DM'd me while I was on my trip? I just looked at the board briefly. And one of the few things that stood out, I was like, 23 points is not that many against Elon. I thought about getting nasty, but I only got nasty with Murray State. I was like, that's enough. They pushed, although I think it looks like it got up to 24.5. So Elon covered. That's a really low spread. This Duke team is not going to be very good. Any interest in getting involved here?
If I got involved, it would be Duke. I think Duke kind of was left for dead. Lost Riley Leonard, lost Elko, and nobody expected anything from them. They would be my initial lean for sure. I don't think there's any way I could bet Northwestern as a favorite here, like at all.
Stop that, Marty. Duke is a nuke for me. Nobody is nuking Duke on Friday night when you have a whole slate of college football. Oh, shit, I just realized Jovan's in the lobby. Jovan, you good to go?
Duke is a nuke. Sounds awesome, though. At least
Duke is a nuke does sound awesome. What's up, man? Thanks for joining. Good morning to you.
Yeah, what's good? How are you guys?
Good. Nice Rays hat, by the way. I am totally checked out of baseball, but I keep getting every like 4 days, our buddy Drew will text me, Morel fucking sucks.
Yeah, that's fair. I was sweating last night. We got a weird game last night, but they won.
They won 2-1. Yeah. Steak, when's the last time you've looked at a baseball score?
Just to check my futures, because I got obviously Scooball, Cy Young, Aaron Judge, most home runs and RBIs, and then Yankees to win the AL East. So I checked those. That's literally the only baseball I'm doing right now.
Are you on the Mets win total over, by the way?
I don't think so. No, I took Pete Alonso with you. I think most home runs are, Yeah,
I just checked the Mets. I haven't checked in so long. I saw the Mets have 74 wins. I was very enthused about that, but I hope I don't jinx it now. Jovan, are you still tapped in the MLB board? I promise this is the last time I'm going to talk baseball, but I am just curious. Of course. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's impressive. But I know at heart you're a bigger baseball fan than either of us. With that said, let's thank you for joining us. We just talked about Friday. I don't know if you have anything, but there's not really anything there's nothing that good. I was just getting Steak's thoughts on SMU. He had him -45 last week, which was a pretty good read. So it doesn't sound like he really has any interest in getting involved. That Duke Northwestern 9:00 on Friday night. So I think with that, we could probably get into Kansas State and Tulane. That sounds like it might be a pretty interesting matchup. And I know that you two differed on Kansas State in terms of the team, the offseason, I guess, team projections. But what did Kansas State do in their first game? I don't even think I know. Let's see. Oh, they played a nobody 41-6. No big deal there.
Did not look good. I was looking for that game. I was trying to see if Avery Johnson could actually throw the ball against a horrendous defense and kind of lead them to that. He could not do that to save his life. So that, as a Kansas State non-believer, I have gotten far from what I needed to change my mind yet.
I was gonna literally comment that yesterday when you said you were joining us. This is actually the first game I wanted to talk to Jovan about. I watched, obviously, because I'm really into Avery Johnson, and I'm not excited about him passing the ball at all. I'm definitely nervous about this game because I feel like Tulane could be sneaky. Am I crazy to think that like Tulane could be sneaky 9.5-point dogs? I don't love this spot at all.
So I'm pulling up Avery Johnson. He was 14 of 21, but only 153 yards and an interception.
It was so many like 4 or
like
5
wide receiver screens and
wasn't
shit
good,
like that.
man. It wasn't good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Well, according to Action Network, I don't know how accurate these opening lines are, these look aheads. It says Kansas State 6.5 is now up to 10 or 9.5 at FanDuel. Interesting. It says FanDuel is the only book that's still at 9.5, not giving it to 10. Total 51.5 down to 48.5. Maybe the under can be a look. I think Tulane had a pretty good defense. And then Tulane, let's see. So what did they do their week one? They had a home game against Southeast Louisiana. They won 52-0. They were only 28-point favorites. That's pretty crazy. No respect for the Mean Green there out in opening week. I guess this seems like a pretty healthy number for Kansas State on the road. Total's down 4 points. I would have to imagine that Kansas State would still be a little trendy here, if anything. I don't know. Tulane at home? I'm kind of intrigued by Tulane at home. Jovan, are you playing this game or no?
Probably not, but I want to get to Tulane. I don't know that I'm going to get there, though. It's just Avery Johnson's got to show it to me at this point against a really good defense. I think this could be another under game. The one thing that scares me is that this game last time they played was kind of like Penn State, West Virginia, where if anyone watched the game first time around, probably could have told you that Tulane was in that game and had a chance to beat him until it kind of unraveled at the end. So maybe that's cooked into this line a little bit, but it's a really different teams on both sides.
Steak, you sound like you're staying away from Kansas State. Are you going to take Tulane?
I don't think that's a good decision for me as a Kansas State backer,
That's
but
true.
I can say very confidently that I like the under. I
Okay.
think Kenny's money nailed it too. Tulane does have QB issues, and shit, Kansas State might have QB issues. And I think there's absolutely a reason you see that line drop from 51.5 to 48.5. Because I think it's going to be low scoring. I see MJ saying Tulane team total under. I like that too. But for me, I would probably just want to go the game under.
Okay. Yeah, I would probably go game under too. I mean, I don't know. Is there anything to really like about Kansas State's defense in the first road game? Or I guess for that, you're probably fading Tulane if they've got quarterback issues or whatnot.
People aren't high on Kansas State's defense, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either. I don't know that I would isolate it to one team. I'd probably go full game. All right, let's go. I mean, this is beautiful. I miss looking at this at noon. I missed it so much. Bowling Green, Akron, Rutgers. This is how I love, because again, I work weekends. So when I start my day and I get out to work and I'm strolling in the city and nobody's up yet and I'm fucking on the train and I'm looking at lines, I can't wait to get a fucking noon, meaningless, stupid fucking Rutgers Akron game under my belt. This is a weird number. 22 is always a weird number. 1 point off that 3 touchdown mark makes me always think that I just lean the favorite in this spot. Anytime I see these weird numbers, same thing with like 18 or some shit like that. So anyways, Akron and Rutgers, did either of these teams do anything? Oh my God, they lost 52-6 against Ohio State. I guess that's to be expected. They were 49-point dogs. Rutgers beat up Howard 44-7. Total of 51 seems like kind of high actually in a Rutgers game. This total seems much more standard. Kind of reminds me of Wisconsin. You got a big spread, or no, Iowa, sorry. Big spread, low total, 39, Rutgers minus 22. Is Akron just going to be absolutely terrible this year? Does anybody have a thought in this game? Just feel free to go after it.
They're supposed to be pretty terrible. I will say, though, I don't know if it was more Ohio State bad or Akron good, but like the defense for a lot of the start of that game didn't look terrible against Ohio State. So maybe that is something to lean into with a 39 total. So I would not hate just going with that under.
17-3 in the first half of that game. I'm glad you brought that up. And then in the third quarter, halfway through the third quarter, that's where they got a fumble recovery too. Okay, well that's a pretty good nugget there. So Akron's defense showed up in the first half. Steak, you kind of agreeing here, or do you like a side?
I don't like a side. I watched Rutgers. I in-gamed Rutgers against Howard in the legacy cover. They had no business covering it. Pretty much looked like.
Why would you in-game Rutgers against Howard?
MJ had him. A bunch of people had him, and it was on Friday or Thursday, and I just wanted action. It was like the first game. It started at 6 p.m., and all the other games started at 7 p.m., and I just wanted action. But
okay.
Yeah, I watched way more of that game than I care to admit.
Okay.
I hate that quarterback from Minnesota. I think he's terrible.
Calamacatis?
I just think as the competition goes up, you're going to see more and more how bad he is. And I don't see any way you can like points in this Rutgers Akron game at all.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. The total, by the way, it looks like it opened 43.5 down to 39.5, and money came in on Akron from 26.5 down to 23.5. I can probably get down on that under. I think that's going to be a disgusting low scoring game. And what would it take for you to go to that game?
I would have to have like $10,000 on it.
and risk-free bet. Okay, wait. I do want to talk about this game regardless if you guys have a thought on it, because Steak, even when you and I were talking, recapping before Jovan got in here, we didn't really touch on Penn State too much. They're at home, 34.5 against Bowling Green. So what I did pay attention to was it felt like Steam was kind of getting beaten up from what I saw on Saturday. And once I saw the home dog of West Virginia go down from 9.5 to 7.5, I was like, oh no. This just is giving me the weird vibe that Penn State's going to win. And not that I even wanted it, because Steak, I heard you say you're not really a Penn State guy. I think you may have faded him last year. I'm not a James Franklin guy. Jovan, I don't really know where you stand. I almost got duped into taking Drew Aller Heisman last year. Heard some chatter about him, some hype about him. I stayed off, but I did watch him. I wasn't really that impressed. But you never know with these guys. After they get that full year under their belt, they got some good running backs. They got a nice defense. 34.5 at home against Bowling Green after a nice big win. James Franklin is a coach that respects the spread. You always have to remember that. And for those reasons, when Penn State has something to prove, I don't want to fade them at all. So if anything, I'm on Penn State here at 34.5. And I'm going to keep an eye on this game, even if I don't have any money on it. I want to see if Penn State is out for blood this year, because nobody's talking about them. You got Oregon coming in, Ohio State, obviously. I feel like nobody's talking or respecting Penn State, and everybody was kind of hyping them up last year. They burned everybody a little bit. They still won some games. So I'm going to keep an eye on Penn State, total of 49. Steak, do you have any thoughts on this game?
Well, I have thoughts on Penn State. The West Virginia slurpage got like out of hand the last couple of days leading up to that game. I actually thought it was insane. And something told me there was absolutely no way that Penn State lost that game. I kind of think, and I hate to say this because I do hate Penn State, I always have, this sort of feels like the year with the new additions to the conference and the fact that you can't possibly like James Franklin in big games anymore. This actually feels like the year to me they might be sneaky, or as sneaky as Penn State could possibly be, given that they're Penn State. And then I don't look to fade Penn State much this year at all, to be completely honest with you. And I thought Drew Aller looked very, very good.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't watch a second of the game, really. Jovan, where are you at with Penn State?
Somewhere in the middle. Like, I think they look fine, but the Drew Aller slurp after that game where he completed 11 passes, I feel like is a little out of control. That's where I kind of differ from, I think, everybody else. But in this game, I mean, I think they could roll. I mean, not a hot take playing Bowling Green, but
right.
Bowling Green needs to run the ball to have any sort of offense, and I highly doubt that's going to happen at any level of effectiveness against Penn State. So.
Okay, so you're not necessarily buying in on Penn State like season long by any means, like overreacting to one game win against West Virginia.
To me, it just feels like, I mean, they're probably going to roll through the rest of their schedule. That's, I don't know, the bye games and Illinois, UCLA, all those type of teams, and we'll see what happens when they go up and play at USC, Ohio State, and any big game. I'm not really that yet.
Opener was 29.5, so it's up 5 points. Yeah, that's too much. I'm not chasing that. Total hasn't really moved, 48.5, kind of staying right around that number pretty much everywhere too. Yeah, all right, I'm good. I'm gonna stay off that game. Next one on the board is an interesting one because Cincinnati is a team you sold me on. Steak, did you end up tailing Cincinnati? You stayed off of it? No. I'm on their over win total. I don't know how they looked week one. It says they're 0-1 ATS. The game went over, but this feels like a big game. And I don't know. Should I be nervous about Pittsburgh? What did Pittsburgh just do? Pat Narduzzi and Kent State, 55 points. That seems like it's kind of impressive. I don't even know who the fuck Pittsburgh's quarterback is. Who the fuck is E. Holstein?
The freshman who they love.
30 of 40? I mean, that's pretty impressive for a freshman quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got Cincinnati as a 2-point favorite at home. The total is high as shit. I don't know if I've seen a 63 total in a Cincinnati game, maybe ever.
Yeah.
I mean, they've always been known for kind of having a pretty stout defense. Cincinnati won 38-20 against Towson, did not cover the 34.5-point spread. I don't care. It's week 1. They didn't show them anything. They know they got Penn State coming in on deck next. Are we taking Cincinnati here? Are we doubling down, Jovan? Or are we just going to wait and hope they hit their win total, get this win for their win total?
That total being at 63, not to mention, I mean, it's a lot of steam, but like it was at 59 yesterday. And
oh my God,
the total of this game last year was 44.5. So like I know we're buying in maybe after 1 week because like Holstein looked great, Sorsby looked great. They didn't really show anything in the second half, but like both these defenses gave up yards to Towson and Kent State. So maybe it makes a lot of sense, but that total feels awfully telling that at least like on the offensive side, I might have been somewhat right about Cincy. So I think we see that.
Okay. Steak, you're nodding your head.
I mean, wrong. This is a wrong team favorite. I feel like Pittsburgh's going to be trendy as can be in this game. Is anybody lining up to take Cincinnati minus 140 or whatever they are on the money line? Doesn't that seem crazy to you?
Yeah, but is Pittsburgh, and is anybody actually high on Pittsburgh? I don't necessarily know.
I kind of think so.
You do?
Yeah, kind of. Offensively, I think people really like them. I think they really like that quarterback, and then they drop 55 week 1. I don't know, man. I think people are going to be all over Pittsburgh in this game. Absolutely. I love Cincinnati. I love Cincinnati.
Oh, he's a transfer from Bama.
Yeah.
I did not know that. You love BG team total under. Yeah, I'm good with that. UC got their best interior D lineman back this week.
Also, he's probably the best overall player on their team. He had like a blood clot issue, so we didn't know like when he was going to play or if he was going to play this season. He's back.
He has a bad fucking name, Don Corleone.
Dante Corleone, yeah,
dude. I'm fucking.
How do you not back at that guy?
I know we talked about this in the season preview, and I had a picture of him in the book, but Jovan was like, "Oh, he's hurt. We don't know when he's going to come back," and I was like, "Well, that's deflating." I'm in. I guess are we? Is it Cincinnati or is it the over?
I think it's the over, personally.
Okay, Steak.
I think it's Cincinnati.
Okay, all right. So Cincinnati team total over and alt spread parlayed with Baker Mayfield 3 touchdowns. All right, I like where we stand there. That's encouraging, and a 2-0 start for Cincinnati win total would be fantastic. All right, we are almost to the game that I am looking forward to talking about the most, but I do think there's not a lot of marquee games, as I mentioned, for this week, so we really got to dig into these disgusting matchups, and I feel like we might be able to find something. Is there anything to be had here with Troy and Memphis? You know what I keep hearing, and I want to take a look real quick to see when it is. This is all I keep hearing about with Memphis, when they play FSU, which is the next game they have on deck. So Troy comes in. What the fuck did Troy just do? I mean, I know it's early in the year, and I know you're Memphis, and every game counts, but I'm not saying you got the ACC, but you've got FSU looking dead in the water. You have to be thinking that game is winnable to win in FSU. And now you have to, oh, wow. Troy lost to Nevada, 28-26. They were favored. They were favored as a 7.5-point favorite, and they lost outright. So now they're coming into Memphis. I think Memphis is going to be overlooking this team. That's kind of what I'm getting at here. I think Memphis is going to be overlooking this team. 18.5-point favorite. Total is 57. I mean, am I on the right track here or not? It looks like Memphis was 13.5 favorites, and they're up to 18.5. Steak, you got anything on this?
So last week I had the late lean that I loved Penn State, so I bozo lay money line parlayed Penn State and Troy because I kind of thought Nevada could be trendy after their impressive performance against SMU. Almost won that game. Obviously, an awful wager. Troy's horrible. I watched the game. That's the most embarrassing part about this is I watched Troy and Nevada, like a lot of it. Like you should check me in somewhere for watching that game. Troy's awful, and I don't even want to use my gambling brain. I think Memphis is going to win this game by like 30 points.
Ah, fuck.
Yeah, I do.
So okay, so there's no look ahead spot for Memphis.
Look ahead to 0-2 FSU.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can call that a look ahead game anymore. I don't know what you do if you have a FSU on your schedule now because they look fucking terrible.
I think winning in FSU is big.
Yeah.
Now you just don't want to be.
I'd still look ahead because like this is their chance. Because like that, how many times are you going to play a vulnerable FSU? How many times are you going to play a vulnerable power school? Period. If you're Memphis
in Tennessee, they're the ACC champion. Or Tallahassee. Sorry, not in Tennessee. In Tallahassee. You're not buying. All right, you're not buying it. You're gonna have to talk me off of Troy. Jovan, do you like this look ahead spot?
I don't love it.
Okay,
If there was no look ahead spot, I would probably be involved in Memphis. Now I might just stay off the game, but it is scary because like Troy, as bad as they are, they always have been like a sneaky defensive team. And yes, Norvell is a little revenge game too.
Tiny Diego, who doesn't hate FSU right now? They're fucking terrible. And I respected FSU after they kicked me in the nuts 3-unit play right out of the gate against LSU last year, and I started to finally give Mike Norvell his flowers. Anyways, okay, you two are. Thank you. I feel like you're the angels on my shoulder, where I got the devil in here trying to tell me to get nasty with Troy. I'll stay away. I'll respect that Troy is terrible, and we'll move on. Okay, Texas and Michigan. This is the game that I have been talking about before any games were even played, thinking that looking at the schedule for Michigan, I like them to beat Texas, and then I like them to lose to USC. Well, the way things went in week one, now I love it. I liked it. Now I love it. And let me tell you why I love it. There are two teams that I feel like I heard people were very underwhelmed and kind of disappointed by, and it was Oregon and it was Michigan. That's what I've heard from the chatter. I think everybody is kind of overblowing both performances because, again, you don't want to show your cards, especially if you have a big game coming up the following week. I'm not saying Oregon's is that massive by any means, but Michigan, this is huge. Texas comes into Michigan. All I keep hearing about is how they beat the shit out of Colorado State. Maybe Colorado State's terrible. Maybe Texas is that good. I don't know. But what I keep hearing is, Michigan running backs, what do they have? Like 1.9 yards a carry or some bullshit. They might not have a quarterback. Davis Warren, whatever the fuck his name is, isn't very good. Orgy didn't play, and that was a surprise. Donovan Edwards didn't really, what do you have, 26 rushing yards or something? It's all I keep hearing about. So I think this is lining up perfectly. And if you look at the market, it would make perfect sense to me. The opener on this game was Texas laying 3 points, -3, minus 120. So it was juice to begin with. It is all the way up to 7.5. Now, here is where I will pump the brakes, right? Because I always like to argue with myself to try to meet somewhere in the middle. I do feel like there's an element to this game that reminds me of Florida, where it's like, wait a minute. How often do you see the Gators getting points in the swamp? How often do you see Michigan getting this many points in Michigan? That is kind of keeping me a little bit in check. But at the same time, this is an entirely new Michigan. They're basically all new players. They have 8.5 win total, and a new head coach. So I don't really look at it as, it's the defending national championship getting a touchdown at home. I think of it more as nobody really cares about Michigan right now because they don't know anything about them and they didn't look good. And in comes Texas, who everybody loves, Quinn Ewers. What was he, the second or third favorite to win the Heisman? The move makes sense. But I know Steak has a counter to that. Jovan, before we get to you, Steak, you and I have chatted about this game back and forth via text. You're kind of keeping me in check. So I'd like to hear your thoughts or let the people know your thoughts on this game.
When's the last time a defending national champion has seen a line move from -3 to -7.5, not in their favor?
I don't know.
It's so disrespectful. I think it's cause for concern. I'm going to upset Kev. I know he's in here. I don't know Davis Warren. I don't know if the plan was start him against Fresno State because they knew they were going to win that game because the defense could do enough and not show Orgy to Texas, or if Orgy sucks. But I'm not buying Davis Warren at all. I feel like in my mind, from what I saw, he's almost who everyone pretended JJ McCarthy was last year, I think you're going to learn real quick about how good JJ McCarthy was personally. I like Blaine said it, I want to plug my nose and take Michigan. I want to do that too. I think it's crazy that it's moved to 7.5. 5.5, 6, I guess I could have dealt with, but 7.5 feels crazy to me. I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. Jovan, do you have a lean on this game?
I mean, it might make a lot of sense, but I kind of want to go with the under. I will say that, I know a lot of Texas fans, and I've talked with all of them. There's not a single one of them that doesn't think they win this game in a blowout, which is the scary part for me. That's kind of keeping me around Michigan. The thing, X's and O's wise, remember Cleveland, Baker Mayfield? His central problem, he could only pass and play action, which is like why he was so good in Tampa because they schemed him up for that. Quinn Ewers is the same way. So that's my concern that like if they don't run the ball effectively, he's going to be dog shit, which is exactly what like TCU in that big game when they went undefeated in Texas, like they stopped that, which is the whole point of their offense. So I do not see them running the ball in Michigan at all. So I don't think Texas is scoring, but I'd be lying if I said, just like everybody else, I'd love to bet on Michigan. So, I mean, this total is low, obviously, at 42 now, which I think is ridiculously low even for a Michigan game at Michigan. But I don't see many points being scored. I don't know if anybody does, but that's probably the hill that I'll die on.
Okay, so you like the under in the game, but primarily because you don't see Texas having much success offensively because of the lack of the run game, which won't open up things for the passing game for Quinn Ewers.
I assume you don't see Michigan having much success offensively either, right?
Maybe a little bit. Honestly, I mean, people don't realize how not good that DB room is for Texas. So I feel like there could be a splash player too, which kind of keeps them into the game. And honestly, like you're not going to need much scoring from Michigan to get I don't know, what I think is going to be a low scoring game, cover a touchdown and the hook.
Well, here's what I think in terms of it does correlate to the under. I think Michigan is going to ground and pound. And one of the biggest reasons I thought about not going back and fading Texas this year because I did it last year. I don't really like Sarkisian that much, but I did because when I was looking at the guys that they lost, I didn't really care that much about Xavier Worthy or the wide receivers. The two interior defensive linemen they had, when I did watch Texas last year, they impressed the absolute shit out of me. And I honestly, I get a hard on. Do you guys remember the like Ndamukong Suh game, the Nebraska win the bowl? Like a Steak, you and I were bartending that game. I couldn't stop watching the TV. When a defensive lineman, let alone two, like jump out at the screen, I love that shit coming from a former nose guard. But anyways, those dudes were bad motherfuckers. And then Kev told me this, Texas struggled stopping the run against Colorado.
They did.
I was going to say, because like the score is very deceptive of how that game went, because Colorado State moved the ball. Just felt like every time they got into crucial situations, it was a play call that was too cute. It was a throw that was just missed. It was something that did not reflect them getting dominated and shut out.
So here's what I think. I think Michigan can kind of win this game the same way Notre Dame beat Texas A&M. When I went back and watched that Notre Dame game, I mean, for the most part, Riley Leonard was fucking falling forward for like 4 to 5 yards at a time. And then there were some nice big plays that the running backs ended up busting out, a 20-yard run, a 40-yard run. I think Michigan's going to do that too. I think they're going to run the ball successfully. I think they're going to keep Quinn Ewers on the sideline as much as possible with long drives. I think Michigan wins this game in a low-scoring affair. I could see it being like 21-17 or something like that. So I'm going to be taking Michigan with the points. I might even sprinkle on the money line. Jovan, you're going to be on the under. Steak, any play from you in this?
I love the under read, obviously. I think that's a very good read.
Wink Martindale is the X factor. He loves to fuck with QBs. Yeah, I mean, look, that's another thing too. At the end of the day, I don't really know who's on the defense for Michigan, but I do at least trust their recruiting enough to kind of reload. They always do have some talent, but also on the offensive line. I mean, they're kind of like Notre Dame in that point. People were betting Texas A&M because the starting left tackle for Notre Dame went down. I heard it on the Cover 3 podcast. Everybody was a clean sweep of unders because they thought they were going to lose to Texas A&M. And all I'm thinking is, if you pay attention to Notre Dame football, they'd fucking produce offensive linemen like it's nothing. It doesn't matter if they're starting a fucking fifth-year senior or a true freshman. These guys just get in there and they block. I hate to say it, but I think Michigan's the same way. So I think they're going to be okay. That's the game I'm pulling my hall pass card for. I'm going to tell my wife to go see if her friends want to go to brunch, and I am going to be watching that Michigan-Texas game. So looking forward to that. All right. I'm also very much looking forward to talking to about these next two games. Arkansas and Oklahoma State. Now, Jovan, I think you faded Oklahoma State. Steak, did you come around to fading Oklahoma State this season?
Yes, but I did bet them week one. I took Oklahoma State week one. I do have their win total under.
Okay.
Yeah, I just watched after the North Dakota State game against Colorado. I watched how trendy South Dakota State got by the time that game kicked off, and the line kept moving in Oklahoma State's favor, and it was impossible not to take.
I don't blame you. I mean, with the Dakota State's teams around the same spread, you knew one was going to cover and one probably wasn't. So I don't hate that at all. But I need to know if we have any life here, potentially getting a little upset. Oklahoma State's at home, 7.5 point favorite, total 62.5, overs juiced. Looks like it's a little trendy. Looks like 57% of the bets on Arkansas, according to covers. They played Ark Pine Bluff. That's absolutely pointless. We know Oklahoma State won and covered against San Diego State. I would love, I'm not going to be there and doubling down on it, but I sure would love for Oklahoma State to face some adversity early. Jovan, do you think there's a chance Arkansas can make any noise?
I think there's a chance, but I'm not in that camp. I think as much as I don't like Oklahoma State, I like them in this game. One thing I've learned with fading Oklahoma State, when it's overly obvious and it seems like a lot of people are going to be on it, that's when Oklahoma State brings it together and has some of their best performances. That's the vibe that it's giving me here, especially because I don't know why everybody's slurping the Arkansas offense, because like Jaquindon Jackson and Taylor Green are cool and it's cool what they did against Pine Bluff, but it's Pine Bluff, and Taylor Green, when we see him for a full season, has been bad. So if he's in a shootout with Oklahoma State, have fun. It's like that's kind of the camp I'm in for this game.
Okay, fair enough. Steak.
I think you'd get a little excited. I know it's Pine Bluff, but didn't they score 10 touchdowns in a row or something like that?
I mean, our Pine Bluff didn't score.
I know.
70-0.
I don't know if anybody's done that before though.
I don't know.
10 touchdowns in a row.
I can tell you, Pine Bluff, when what year was it? Maybe I think it was the year before the national championship. They came to TCU, and that's the worst football team I've ever put eyes on.
Yeah.
Did I say San Diego State? By the way, I meant South Dakota State. Sorry. All right, fair enough. I'm gonna hope for the best.
I'm not done. I like Arkansas, and I absolutely think they can win outright. I'm gonna have a little money line ticket. I do like them. I actually think Oklahoma State was exactly what Jovan said last week, and I don't think it's that way this week. I still don't think Arkansas is getting quite the respect they deserve. I'm not expecting an SEC championship or run or a 9-win season, but I think they're definitely better than they're given credit for. And I also think you can put a little bit of stock into the fact that KJ Jefferson didn't look that great in his first start for UCF. UCF dog walked New Hampshire, don't get me wrong, but KJ Jefferson didn't look like anything special in that game. I unfortunately watched way too much of that game too. I think RJ Harvey had 13 yards of carry, so you don't need to do much else when he does that. But yeah, I like Arkansas. I already have them punched in on the spread. I'll definitely throw a little money line in there.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear. By the way, Jovan, you are a pretty big critic of Alan Bowman, which I agree with, and but you trust that Oklahoma State more in a shootout in Alan Bowman than Taylor Green.
Yeah, he ain't the only one in that offense.
Oh, fair.
That's true.
It's that offense in a shootout, not Alan Bowman in a shootout.
Fair enough. Kind of reminds me of the West Virginia game that last year. That was a shootout, and Oklahoma State couldn't fucking punt. And on that note, I'm okay believing in Arkansas, because when I watched Arkansas, I was not impressed with KJ Jefferson. I think Sam Pittman's still a pretty good coach. I'm not buying the KJ Jefferson love necessarily quite as much, but I can get down on Arkansas being a team that nobody's really given any sort of respect for. Not in this spot necessarily, but throughout the season, it's going to be kind of an overlooked team that I'll keep my eye on. Are you guys ready for my first second 2-unit POD? And unfortunately, it comes against the same opponent, which I'm not thrilled about. But I did have Michigan State last week against FAU. I didn't think the Owls would hoot in East Lansing. And you know what? I watched that game. I looked at the box score pretty, I don't know, with a magnifying glass, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I really don't think FAU did anything that impressive. Michigan State really shot themselves in the foot. But I am going back to fading Florida Atlantic. And I have a feeling one, if not both of you, are going to tell me this isn't a good idea. But I'm going to bet on Army. And Army is a 3.5-point dog up to 4, which is not good because I'm going against a line move. But what if I told you that my body is still programmed to be in Europe, so I'm 6 hours ahead? So I woke up at 3 a.m. today because my body thinks it's 9 a.m. And I watched Army Lehigh highlights, and I took notes. What if I told you that? What if I would you believe me?
I would say end the stream right now. And we all go home.
I watched Jeff Monken, Army's head coach's fucking press conference, and I watched Tom Herman's press conference. I'm telling you, that guy, I definitely think is on some fucking Xanax and some scotch or something. But anyways, that's another story. I think Army, who just joined a new conference, a conference because they weren't independent, the AAC, this is their first conference game. They're going into FAU. I think a military school like this takes pride in this type of challenge and this matchup. And I think that this is the perfect type of opponent to go into. So I've got a really lengthy pitch on here, and I'm not going to give you all of it right now because I'd like to hear your thoughts first. But I just want to tell you this, and again, this is not really saying Michigan State was a bad beat, but FAU, when they played Michigan State last week, there was 11.5 up to 13.5. Kind of knew we were fucked when I saw that team going to Michigan State. Michigan State had the ball, and they were up 16-0 in the first half. The quarterback, Jovan, I think you briefly mentioned you know who this guy is, or a little bit about him. Okay, this guy was 2 for 4 with 7 yards passing right before halftime. And Michigan State turned the fucking ball over. I think they had like a 50-yard interception return the other way. FAU got a field goal or whatnot. Michigan State had 12 penalties for 140 yards. That is insane. And they had 3 turnovers. I think they had 5 trips to the red zone. They turned it over 3 times. That is absolutely fucking terrible. Michigan State, though, had 4.8 yards per rush. Army is a triple option team. That doesn't fare so well, in my opinion. And let's see what else. The quarterback for Army, Bryson Daly. You know what I like about this guy? He's a junior. Okay, so he's been in the offense. He's been at the school for a little bit. He played high school football at Texas. Let's see. The offense for Army against Lehigh. Doesn't really matter. Lehigh is a terrible team. 26 first downs, only 1 penalty, 0 turnovers, 375 rushing yards. And Steak, what you just said was impressive about Arkansas. Guess what Army did on every drive against Lehigh?
Scored?
They scored a touchdown on every drive. You know what they did to start the game? To start the game, they almost went 3 and out, and the coach called a fake punt on their own 20. You know what he said in the interview, the press conference? He said, I didn't want my guys to open the season with a punt. I love that. And you know what else he did? This is huge. He pulled the old James Franklin. You had Army. They were up 35-7. They didn't hit their team total. They didn't hit the spread. They ran the ball. They got a first down. They went out of bounds, 26 seconds left. They could have taken a knee. They fucking ran it on the 5-yard line and got a touchdown. I am telling you, this guy, the way Army ended the season last year, by the way, they beat Navy. This team has some pride, but I'll say this. They also have some question marks. That defense did not look very good. And what concerns me is FAU's quarterback. He's terrible throwing the football. Terrible. But he can run. The fucker can run. So I am a little worried about that. The total is low. It's 43. Army's team total is 18.5. I think I love it. I think they're going to go in here. I think they're going to run the ball down FAU's throats after just playing a fucking Big Ten opponent on the road, getting beaten up, allowed 4.8 yards per carry, 37 rushing attempts, I believe. But most importantly, and I'm going to end it with this, they benefited from those penalties and those turnovers. Army, military school, I think they're going to clean it up. I hope they clean it up. No turnovers, low amount of penalties, don't shoot themselves in the foot. That is a nightmare for FAU in their home opener, in my opinion. Steak, do you have any thoughts on that?
There's nothing more patriotic than running the score up against Lehigh. I actually like what I saw from Army as much as you can, and I don't. I'm with you. I'll make it really simple. I'm with you. I think it's safe to say anytime you see a kid giving an interview telling you to slam the over on the team season wins, you can usually count on them not covering their first game. So I knew Michigan was. I knew Michigan was cooked. They don't look good. Michigan State. They don't look good at all. But yeah, I could see Army winning this game outright. I don't think that's that crazy. Okay.
Jovan, you know the FAU quarterback fairly well. Am I getting duped here with taking the points? Is this actually a lot of respect for FAU?
I don't know if it's a lot of respect for FAU. I don't really have thoughts in this game. I'll trust you there. I'll just to play devil's advocate.
Please.
I feel like everybody watched that Michigan State game and they could say Aiden Childs and Cam Fancher were 2 of the worst quarterbacks they probably saw play all weekend. So maybe the trigger finger might be a little quick to fade that guy, which I wouldn't blame you for.
Mm-hmm.
So, that would be my only counterpoint, but I am certainly not backing that guy.
Well, I will say this, and I got this vibe from the Army head coach because I agreed when I was watching it. Lehigh was kind of moving the ball, and they did score a touchdown, which is not good. Lehigh is a terrible team. The defense has some questions. I think they have 8 or 9 new starters, but they are guys that had experience. When I watched FAU's quarterback, I was not at all concerned about his throwing ability, but he is fucking fast. And if there's one thing Army doesn't have, it's athletes on defense. So I'm really hopeful that FAU just doesn't get whatever they want on offense. Then you get Army in a shootout. That would be terrible. but I also think Army is probably not going to find themselves in too many punting situations. I think they're going to have a pretty good job. And again, especially after that defense just had to fucking play in Michigan State. I think Army's going to run all over them. So I also like the team total, but I think I'm going to take the spread and sprinkle the money line. So I know that was a long time on Army, but that's going to be one of my PODs for the year, and that means play of the day to anybody who isn't familiar. Okay, we can move on. Georgia Tech and Syracuse. Why do I keep hearing all this shit about Kyle McCord?
He looked good,
but like that good?
I think he looked pretty good. I mean, I think if we're interested in watching him play or investing in him, you can mostly just be nothing but happy about his first performance. I'm not going to go crazy.
Okay. 38-22. They beat Ohio. And then they've got Georgia Tech coming in, who Georgia Tech is off of, let's see, they won and they covered against, who is that? Is that
Georgia State?
Georgia State. Yep. Game stayed under. We've got 2 unders for Georgia Tech. Could this be a pattern? Could this be a theme? I don't know, but Syracuse did just score a lot of points. We got a high total here in Syracuse. Georgia Tech is on the road laying 3. Jovan, do you have any thoughts on this game?
Not too much. I mean, he did look good. The one thing I hate betting on, I guess, this early in the season, and even if it's just a week 1 thing with teams that have back-breaking discipline issues, which is the reason Syracuse did not cover that game. But I know a lot of people were on them. I don't know how it got so court, but by the end of the week, it seemed like everybody was on Syracuse in a blowout, and they hooked under. So I would not be surprised if going back to them paid off here.
Okay. Steak?
I kind of wanted to be a Kyle McCord investor. I just like the position, going from all the pressure in the world at Ohio State to playing at Syracuse. I'm started getting this vibe, and I know it was mentioned yesterday, but I'm getting this vibe. Maybe you just don't fuck with Georgia Tech, because I mean, don't you think Georgia State was pretty corp last week, Jovan?
Definitely got like that by the end of the week, yeah.
And they covered, and I do see a lot of maybe people going back to Syracuse. I put out my leans. A lot of comments were agreeing with Syracuse, but I'm not placing it yet. My initial lean was absolutely Syracuse and Kyle McCord. And you mentioned that the over seemed high. Personally, I think the only way the over gets there is if Syracuse wins.
Yeah, I guess that's probably pretty true. I'm okay not fucking with Georgia Tech. I mean, I have to give them respect. I'm not really a big Haynes King guy, but he fucked me week 1 last year too against Louisville, and then they did the same thing against FSU. So maybe there's something to be there. I don't know this Georgia Tech coach very well, but I've heard good things about him. Who's the head coach at Syracuse, by the way? Dino Babers isn't there. Anybody know?
No.
Slipping my mind. I know exactly who it is.
You know who it is?
Chat will know.
Yeah.
Chat will know. It's not a fun place to play. Yeah, I want to take Q's this week, but I've been on GT in week 0 and again. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. Fran Brown? I have no idea who that is. Should I know who that is?
Maybe a little bit.
There's only one Fran in my life, and that's Fran Vasquez, and we're done there. He was at Georgia, former recruiter at Georgia, I believe. Former recruiter. Interesting. Okay. 2-3 zone, baby. All right. There's a couple of bullshit no-name games. If you guys have anything Northern Illinois, Notre Dame, feel free. Otherwise, I'm going to keep scrolling down. There's a few more that I want to talk about as we get to the afternoon slate. Steak, you told me, I think it was in your leans, your early leans in week 3, which I think it was hilarious that some people were commenting that you already had leans for week 2 on it. I feel like that's like a normal degenerate thing to already be looking at the board on a Monday. But thank you for sharing. And Baylor was on there. You like Baylor plus 14 at Utah. I don't really know that I agree. And I'm curious to hear what Jovan has to say. I'm glad he's up here because I think he knows Baylor fairly well, or at least the conference fairly well. Why are you going to be fading Utah in Utah? Because that just doesn't sound like a fun thing to do.
Oh, Jovan first or me first?
No, you first.
Oh, I want to fade Utah this year often.
You do?
Yeah, I don't think I'm buying Utah. I think I mentioned this when we initially talked about college football, but this feels like a farewell tour. I'm just not buying Cam Rising at 26 years old or however he is, and the fact that I think everyone kind of agrees this is Whittingham's final year here. And I just don't see Utah this year. I know a lot of people like them to win the Big 12, to win the playoff, and I think I'm happy catching Baylor here with some points. I was very curious to hear Jovan talk about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like Baylor plus the points because this I'm kind of no, I don't want to say biased, but I like Jake Spavital, who's the OC at Baylor, and he is one of the reasons I bet Cal last year. So he's a little familiar with the Pac-12, and he's familiar with Utah. In that game, I mean, Utah wiped Cal, but it wasn't because they couldn't move the ball. It was because of, I think they had a fumble on the first play of a drive. They had a pick. They had a missed field goal. It was like a comedy of errors, but they moved the ball on that defense at Utah. So I feel like that familiarity is going to carry him into this, and I love that they got the offense going against Tarleton without showing too much because there's a lot of unpredictability in terms of what that offense is going to be. So I feel like that kind of carries them into this, even though it's at Utah, might be, I don't know, covering exactly on the 2 touchdown line, but I think they do.
Sorry, I got a corp text right now in an hour. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I didn't really hear anything you guys said, but I'm just going to trust that it was probably decent banter. What did we come away with, Jovan, in this game real quick? Utah or Baylor or nothing?
Baylor. And I also think if Baylor was really going to be shut down on the road at Utah, that total would probably not be 54.5. So I'm leaning into that a little bit too.
I also like points.
I can't do it. I respect you guys. I can't do it. Yeah, I mean, I guess that is a high total, 54.5. All right, fair enough. Okay, here's 2 interesting games, actually 3 interesting games, also in the afternoon slate. I am on Iowa State's win total over. I think that was a somewhat of a Jovan influence there that I'm kind of buying into. A lot of returning starters, even though I'm not a Matt Campbell guy against Iowa. I'm not really that high on Iowa this year. I had Iowa over 8 wins that cashed last year, which is weird because they're obviously so fucking putrid, but they did end up scoring 33 points last week. Iowa State, let's see, they play North Dakota. They won 21-3. They didn't cover a 30-point spread. Again, I am more than okay with that. You're not going to show your hand or your cards. I want to double down here. I need the win. I need over 7.5 wins. This win would be massive as an underdog on the road and against an in-state rival. I want to double down. And I want to take Iowa State +3. And I'm going to need one of you guys to talk me off of it. Steak, any thoughts on this?
So another embarrassing confession is that I watched Iowa play quite a bit last week.
Is there anything you didn't watch?
I mean, there's 9 TVs at Sidebar, so I almost watched – I watched way too many games. But anyways, Iowa looked like Iowa in the first half for sure.
Yes.
It was like same old Iowa. I was fairly impressed with what I saw in the second half. I understand who they played, and I understand you can't get too excited about 33 points. But I was at least excited if you're an Iowa backer to see them be able to move the ball in the second half. Yeah. I don't have a read in this game at all. I just wanted to mention that I maybe would lean Iowa, I guess, but I really don't think I would bet this game.
So the line didn't move past 3 after last week. Yeah, 2.5 up to 3, but it's just staying on 3, 37.5 down to 35. Not going to get anywhere near that total, but I do like Iowa State with the points. Jovan, where are you at with this game?
I'm going to take Iowa State plus the points because they really their game was interesting, and I watched a little bit of it, not all of it, but it looked like they were kind of trying to run out the game on defense, which was interesting. They're playing like super deep off the corners, letting like North Dakota get like chunk plays, so like they didn't have to show their hand too much on offense. It was a lot of like long drives on both sides. So like not that every team is not trying to show their hand. I just found it pretty interesting how I think Iowa State was trying to do it. But yeah, I think after, I don't know, Iowa's best offensive performance, and it feels like years, and Iowa State didn't look all that great against North Dakota, now's the time. And I believe this was also what we talked about when we were talking about the win total. But Iowa State, beginning of last year, when they did lose to Iowa too, that was when they were missing pretty much their entire team because of COVID and the gambling situation. So all of those get-back games, which I guess this is the only repeat game, I'm going to be betting Iowa State.
Steak, come on.
I get it. I really do get it.
You're not going to do it?
I don't know. I'm not there now, I'll tell you that. But I get what you guys are saying.
I love it. I love it. Iowa State double down. I don't usually do that often if I'm already invested, as most people know. I'm sure Boston Sports Stork will comment that here pretty soon. Give me Iowa State. No touch on the total, but I like the +3. All right, Michigan State and Maryland. Is this a game? I know, Jake, you're already fucking smirking. I feel like you're going to go Michigan State. But is this a game after we all saw how much this Aiden Chilles guy stunk after telling everybody to bet the over, the year of FUD? And what was it, 16-10? I don't even know. Michigan State didn't score a point in the second half. Unbelievable. They're 9.5-point dogs against Maryland, but this is going to come down to something for me. First of all, the total is 44. That seems pretty low for a game that has a 9.5-point spread. Maryland just put up 50 against UConn. I'm not saying UConn is a powerhouse by any means, but they won 57 while Michigan State burned the fuck out of everybody who steamed that lineup. I got the best CLV I'm going to get all year. 11.5, 2 units on Michigan State would have closed. 14, fucking A. So I feel like nobody's going to go to Michigan State here. They are a team with a 4.5 win total. I don't know what Maryland was. 6.5? Does that sound right? It feels like a lot of respect. I'm not saying it's any sort of fishiness at all with the line, but it's just a spot where I don't think anybody is going to want Michigan State. I'd probably take them here just for that reason alone. We'll switch up the blunt rotation. Jovan, do you have anything on this game?
Yeah, I mean, you switch up the rotation probably for no reason because I don't have anything, but I'll be damned if I'm betting Maryland after everybody just saw how bad Aiden Childs was in that first game.
Fine. Steak.
This is how I gamble. Unfortunately, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But this is how I gamble. It's always going to be how I gamble. So, what did the line open up as?
That's a good question. Let's see. According to Action Network, if I can find it, hold on. Sorry, it's not really as organized. It opened 7.5 and it's up to 9.5.
Yeah, it's not going to get me off Michigan State. It's not getting me off Michigan State, man. I just think the fact that Maryland put up 50 and Michigan State looks so bad. And like I said, like he tells everyone to bet the over. He comes out, he puts up a stinker and looks incompetent. And they're going to find a way to cover in this game. And I think we'll obviously be defensively. Like I think Maryland team total under might be a really good look. But I like Michigan State and I am absolutely playing them.
Well, the one thing to consider, which I think is interesting, is I always like to keep in mind that a team that just played very sloppy and burned people on the spread, I kind of like to go to that team the following week, and that is Michigan State to a T. Again, 3 turnovers, 12 penalties, and then you look at Maryland. Maryland played a pretty clean game. Didn't lose a fumble, didn't throw an interception, 5 penalties for 45 yards, nothing too substantial. So, yeah, I mean, look, I'm good with it. I'll probably be on Michigan State with the points. I'm not like thrilled about it, but I kind of have to do it. All right, here's another game. I mean, the 3:30 slate. I said there's no marquee games, but there's some intriguing matchups. I think Cal Auburn is kind of interesting. Big spread. Jovan, you're kind of a Cal. I don't know whisperer, but you're like a Cal guy. Do you see any reason to get involved here at 12.5, or is that a lot of points for a scary reason?
Well, I'll tell you the situation. So Cal came in surprisingly, which was news to me and anybody else who's paying attention, going into their game against UC Davis last week. Your guy, Tobias Merriweather, and Young Graves, who was their other number 1 wide receiver, along with a couple linemen, hurt, didn't play. I think Merriweather's supposed to be out for a while. And then Jay Knott also got hurt in that game, and I think he's supposed to play, which is surprising, but that's all to say that they were very banged up last week. They got even more banged up, and now they're going cross country to a game that I really didn't think they had a shot to win. This was probably my least favorite game I was looking forward to on that schedule as a win total better. So maybe it seems a little obvious because they are coming in with so many injuries, but if it looks like a really tough spot to me, especially before they come back home and have a winnable game against San Diego State at home next week. So I kind of don't want to get involved with Cal on this one.
Okay, but you're not going to fade them.
Yeah, only because it seems a little easy depending on how banged up they actually end up being. But
okay,
yeah, this one's kind of tough.
52.5 up to 53. Steak, you getting involved here?
I'm taking Cal. I think Auburn seems way too easy after the fact that they put up all those points last week. Once again, I know against nobody, but people like Peyton Thorne, and he looked good. And I think given the injuries, like Jovan said, the travel, I think everyone will be smashing the Auburn button, and I'm just not seeing it. And I think the fact that it's hovering around under 2 touchdowns is a little baitish, if I'm being honest. Like, I think you could easily make the spread minus 15.5, minus 16.5, and I'd stay away. But 12.5, I do feel like they're baiting you a little bit here with Auburn, given all the context clues.
Interesting. Okay. Anytime a better wins a bet on any team, DGen automatically leads. Motherfucker, Jovan literally had fucking Cal over win total as like one of 3 futures last year. Suck my ass. All right.
I'll say this too before we move off that game. I would feel a little more confident in backing them if last week they were doing the 2 QB thing, and didn't work. Like the quarterback, Mendoza is probably going to be the starter going into this week. He looked great for a little bit. Then they put in Chandler Rogers when they had a chance to really put the game out of hand. He didn't. And then Mendoza came back in and didn't look great. And like Jaden Knott got hurt at that point. So like he never really found a rhythm, which I'm a little worried about going to Auburn, especially in a day game where it's going to be hot as shit. But we'll see. I would not play this game until I find out just who's playing for them.
Okay. Fair. More than fair. Sounds like nothing's going to talk Steak off. I don't love it at all. I don't feel good about a Cal, but I wish you the best if you're going to put your money on him.
Do you remember that game last year at all?
I do. Yeah.
That was worst game I think I've ever watched. And Cal had missed field goals and penalties and should have won that game and somehow didn't.
Like, we had Cal as an official play, I think, in the newsletter. I really liked Cal in that spot. And it sucked. Wait, did you say missed field goals?
Yeah.
It was like short field goals too, wasn't it?
They missed like 3 field goals and an extra point. Like
that was awful.
Really bad.
Thanks for reliving that one. All right, South Carolina and Kentucky, 2 SEC teams that I really don't know shit about. I like the head coach for South Carolina. Is it Shane Beamer? Is that the first name correct? Is it Shane? Right? You guys don't look too convinced.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, you don't look too confident, but I think it's Shane Beamer. I don't know who the quarterback is, though. I don't know much about them at all. I think people like Kentucky this year. We've got, let's see, South Carolina. This is kind of a good matchup for these. I feel like these two teams coming off of a 23-19 win against Old Dominion. And let's see, Kentucky just beat up Southern Miss 31-0. It just sounds like two teams that had this, game thought of as the first one they give a shit about. You just want to win week 1, not do too much. Both low scoring. This totals 43. Kentucky is a 10-point favorite. That seems like a lot of respect for Kentucky. No, you disagree?
Yeah, South Carolina just kind of struggled with Furman. I think the quarterback is Sellers. Is that right, Jovan?
He's bad. Yeah.
And I think he's bad. And I think they have the transfer running back from Arkansas, who I expected to be good. I also expected them to have a good wide receiving core, but they looked pretty rough against Furman. And then Kentucky has the Georgia transferred Brock Vandergriff, and they play Georgia next week. So I feel like that's worth mentioning. I don't think the spread. I'm sorry. Why did I say Furman? I'm an idiot. ODU. Yeah. Old Dominion. Who played Furman? Mississippi. Yeah. I'm stuck on Ole Miss.
Yeah,
I don't think the spread's too high. I really, really don't. I think South Carolina might be bad.
6 up to 10.5. That's a big move. We've seen a lot of big moves around all these games. 49.5 down to 42.5. Again, take it with a grain of salt. I don't know how accurate it is. I'm not going to be betting this game. It sounds like you guys aren't really either, so we can move on. I don't have anything on UTSA, Texas State. I know Texas State sounded like a team people liked in the offseason. You guys have anything, or should we go to the next one?
I'm a little surprised they're favored.
You're surprised Texas State is favored against UTSA?
Yeah, because I mean that's been the team that's bit them in the ass like year after year. Every time Texas State is supposed to be something, which this is the year I feel like it's come together the most. UTSA, they can't get over that hump. So like now seeing them favored, like they're at home, they're a better team, but UTSA has still got the name value, and I'm seeing them favored before a really big game next week. Feels a little interesting to me.
Okay. That's interesting. I'm probably going to stay off. Steak, you have anything in that? Texas
Only
State?
thing I'll add is that this feels like the most corp Texas State could ever possibly be. I can't believe how many times I've heard them mention. I know everybody loves the quarterback, but I have no interest whatsoever in this game.
I strictly kind of taken a page out of your book, Steak, with SMU last week, except the opposite. I think I want to fade Ole Miss. Is there any reason that I shouldn't? So they beat up Furman 75 or 76-0 last week. Middle Tennessee is coming in after barely beating, who is that? Tennessee Tech Central? The fuck is that? 32-25, which is actually hilarious. Still somehow Middle Tennessee probably played a more respectable opponent than fucking Ole Miss did, which is crazy. They did not cover a 24.5-point spread. And now we're seeing Ole Miss favored by 42. I have to imagine that everybody's going to line up and take Ole Miss in some way, shape, or form, whether it's 42 or first half. I'm not going to give you too much X's and O's breakdown in this game because I don't know dick about it. But as Steak said, this is how I gamble. It's kind of how I gamble too. I might be taking Middle Tennessee plus 42. Does anybody have any issues? Okay.
I don't have an issue, but this isn't the spot I'm going to fade Ole Miss. I will find my spots, but this isn't going to be it.
I was hoping they had a look ahead spot next week, but they go at Wake Forest. I don't really think they give too much of a fuck about that, so I can't use that as my capping. All right, next up, Marshall, Virginia Tech. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about this because we talked about it in the offseason. And Jovan, I was wondering if you had any sort of crabs was rubbing off on you on the Virginia Tech club, but you actually were standing firm and didn't seem like you were drinking too much of the Kool-Aid. And I guess you got to feel pretty good about that after week one, losing as a 14-point favorite on the road in Vandy. Yeah, that's pretty bad. I didn't really get it, but again, I didn't watch much Virginia Tech. My problem is for a little bit, I liked Justin Fuente, their coach a few years ago, and I kind of liked Virginia Tech then. But every time I watch Virginia Tech, they just always disappointed me. And I'll never forget fucking Ian Book's coming out party in Blacksburg. I think I even tweeted at the time, Ian Book is the best quarterback in Notre Dame since Joe Montana because of the performance. And Notre Dame never won big road games. So since then, it has just been a fucking downslope Virginia Tech. For whatever it is, the name, the colors, I can't take them seriously on the football field. So I have zero desire to do anything. You got that stupid look on your face already, Steak. I know you're probably going to be betting Virginia Tech. I want nothing to do with this dumb fucking team, but they did just lose outright. They burned everybody if you bet them, obviously. Now they're laying 20.5 at home against Marshall, who covered in their first game. Let's see. They played Stony Brook. I don't even know who the fuck that is. But are we going Virginia Tech here, Steak? Just get it over with.
It's this week's SMU. It's absolutely Virginia Tech. Who the fuck's betting Virginia Tech to cover 21 after the performance they just put on? And then what's up with Kyron Drones? Is he even playing?
Yeah, I would assume so. He came back in and played after he got hurt for a couple plays.
Okay, because I saw he was questionable. I don't care though, just to be clear, because I think Virginia Tech covers the spread with the backup. And I obviously want to touch on the game last week because he got a lot of heat, but I feel like there wasn't quite as much mention about how much the Vanderbilt offense destroyed this defense pretty much the entire game. Pavia was running everywhere, and he was making throws too. The defense looked horrible. I think this is the perfect spot where no one would dare back Virginia Tech after what they did as 21-point favorites. And I think they win this game 42-7.
Total's 52. Take the under 2, bitch. All right, Jovan, do you have any thoughts on a get back for Virginia Tech? You know Marshall pretty well.
Yeah, they actually beat Virginia Tech last year. People forget that.
Oh God, I'm in love with this bet.
Funny you say people forget that. I don't know that anybody.
That's the point.
Yeah.
I'm sarcastic when I say that.
But right.
You know what I do? As much as I am very against like the VT hype train, you know what I will kind of give them a pass on? The one thing that I felt like was kind of around TCU and the Colorado game when they lost to them last year was the unpredictability of like what that team was going to be because there were so many transfers coming in. I feel like that kind of is the same for seeing Diego Pavia come into that offense and completely transform it week one. So like Virginia Tech defense was bad. I don't want to scapegoat for that, but it was a little bit just because like I don't know if they knew what the fuck they were going to do with that offense, and seeing that week one kind of stunned them a little bit. So this Marshall team has a couple quarterbacks and they can run the hell out of the ball, but they don't really have an identity like past years. So this just might be the FSU bounce back that everybody was searching for.
A wise man once said, if you have a couple quarterbacks, you have none.
Yeah.
That's true. That is a saying. I actually think I just heard Danny Cannell say that on the Cover 3 podcast about Michigan. I'm telling you, nobody liked Michigan. Okay. I don't know that I'm going to do it, but I get it. I get it. By the way, who is Pavia? Where like I feel
New
like I've
Mexico.
heard that.
Yeah.
So like he was the New Mexico State quarterback. He was like a big dual threat. Like basically the entire New Mexico State team that was really good last year is at Vandy now.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I kept hearing people happy about Pavia having that performance. I'm like, where the fuck did I hear this guy from?
That Vandy, not glazing myself here, but as a Vandy over 3 win total better, I was very happy.
Oh wow, so, yeah, that's.
So I was just betting. I was betting on one upset, and I thought it was going to be like at the back end of the SEC against like South Carolina or Auburn, and then right out of the gates. That was insane.
Steak, is that going to be your POD?
Absolutely.
All right, done. Okay, super thrilled about that. Not East Carolina, Old Dominion. A couple of these games coming up. I've got nothing. Just feel free to stop me if you see anything worth talking about. UCF and Sam Houston. Why do I swear back in my day, I don't remember ever seeing the name Sam Houston. Now, after last year, trying to be contrarian and sharp and fucking catching the falling knife with Sam Houston, the most embarrassing college football team, and then they just never came through for me until I was done trying. Now I feel like I can't stop seeing their name. Even in college basketball, I kept seeing them. 22.5 at FSU. Is that short? Any thoughts there? Is that a game that UCF cares about?
Well, I'll tell you why you haven't seen them, because they were in the FCS until a couple years ago.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
Maybe until last year. But, yeah, now they're in the FBS. They're actually – I think they're going to be kind of good this year, so maybe that's a little short. I'm just so out on betting teams who I don't think can stop the run too much in the bounce house.
Fair. And UCF has at TCU on deck next week.
I think that game is the season changer for both of those teams. Whoever wins that game is going to be on a much better trajectory than the other. So, that's massive.
Okay, fair enough. Steak, we'll keep moving. I feel like you don't have really anything to care about that. Georgia Southern, is that the team that everybody was on last week against Boise, or was it a different Georgia?
No, Georgia Southern played Boise and put up a lot of points, but I couldn't stop shit. And then you got Nevada with back-to-back very impressive performances.
Okay. So there's probably no reason to get involved in that one. I'm okay passing on that. Let's see. This is just a bunch of no names. Kennesaw, Louisiana. No. All right, here we go. Night game. Oh, my God. Tell me this isn't a fucking Alabama revenge game. Does anybody remember what they did last year when Alabama went to USF? I remember.
Yeah, I do.
Were you at that game, Jovan? I know sometimes you're in Tampa. Oh, okay. The Tyler Buckner legacy game. If I have to hear one more fucking time this guy plays lacrosse for Notre Dame, I'm going to shoot myself. So Alabama, South Florida, -31. I think I wouldn't mind getting involved with Alabama here. But at the same time, if I did, it would probably be first half, because I just think Jalen Milroe is an absolute freak. And night game in Tuscaloosa is a whole lot different than a rainy day game in Raymond James. So I feel like South Florida was a team that I heard some respect on this year in the offseason. They played Bethune-Cookman. They were 43-point favorites. They covered. They did their job. I'm sure they're probably going to treat this game like it's their Super Bowl, but the North remembers. I know Alabama's probably got a lot of guys who left. They don't even give a fuck. Different coaching staff, whatever. So maybe this is all a moot point. But I like Alabama in the first half of this game. Any thoughts? If not, we can move on.
I think USF's kind of trendy, and I think people really like the quarterback. For me, I would want to back Alabama's offense some way. I'm not exactly sure how I get there. I don't think, for me, I would do this first half, because I'm not buying the pulling Jalen Milroe too early in this game. So if I backed Alabama, I would be comfortable backing them the entire game, but it would probably be in the look of a team total over or something like that.
Okay. Jovan, anything, or good to pass?
I find it pretty interesting that USF, who I would say everybody likes a little more coming into the season, is hanging the same exact number as Western Kentucky, who I would hold USF in a a little bit higher standard than that team.
Absolutely.
So,
wow.
Probably,
I didn't even
probably Bama by 40.
Western Kentucky was plus 31 as well.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Same exact number.
That's
actually a really good point.
That's a fantastic point, and add Alabama full game to my card. All right, here's a disgusting matchup that I feel like some people are going to get duped on. This, to me, feels like it's just screaming Illinois. Screaming Illinois 5.5 at home against Kansas. But you know what I think? I can see myself 6 years ago being all over Illinois in this spot, because Kansas is kind of trendy. Jaden Daniels is kind of trendy. Nobody really gives two flying fucks about Illinois. They got a home game, and you're catching a comfortable amount of points. You're not getting a full touchdown, but 5.5 is still a nice, appealing number. Kansas is probably going to blow the fucking brakes off of them. It's probably going to be 38-21. That's just sort of how I feel what's going to happen. I don't know anything about Illinois. I thought about fading Kansas. I decided not to. Do you guys have any thoughts on this game? I don't know that I'm going to take a side, but I feel like we're going to see people take Illinois. This is nothing against you, by the way. I swear I didn't even see this before I went on my rant. I have a feeling people are going to want Illinois in this game, and I think you're all going to get duped. It's just my warning shot for you guys. Any thoughts? Jovan?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I believe this game happened last year, and locations were flipped, and there are a lot of people on Illinois as a slight dog in that one. Maybe feels kind of the same. Where like that team, I think you look on paper and you say they can be more physical than Kansas, but people don't realize the way that their offense works. That doesn't really matter worth a shit. So like I think that as much as I don't know, I'm kind of in between on the Kansas hype a little bit. I'll fade them in some spots, but I'll back them in some spots.
Yeah,
I'm not fading them in this spot.
Okay.
I'm curious if you agree with me, Jovan. Does it not feel like the Kansas hype was louder in May and June than it was in July and August?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of reasons. I feel like because there's so many more shiny new toys in the Big 12 that, like, if anybody, I guess there's a couple of teams where it feels like you're betting guys to stay healthy is like the antithesis of like what you want to do. And Cam Rising in Utah, you got for that.
Yep. So I don't know if it's concerning that the three of us seem to maybe think Illinois is fake sharp, but that was my initial read as well, was that it felt a little fake sharp to me.
And I totally forgot they played last year. Now I'm starting to wonder if I have this feeling because I have like deja vu and PTSD. Maybe I was on Illinois last year. That very well could have happened. And yeah, I'm not trusting them. Illinois is just not the type of team that I want to go to war with against a team like Kansas. By the way, this opened 6.5 and it's down to 5.5. Yeah, so I mean, I guess that would fit the mold of being fake sharp.
It's worth too. I mean, I know I'm trying to look up the exact numbers, but I know Kansas was not good at all on the road last year.
Ooh.
So I was a little surprised, honestly, to see -6.5, -5.5. I thought it would be a little shorter.
Yeah, that's sometimes what I forget to myself, and I realize it when it's too late. When I take a home dog with like a decent amount of points, anything over 3, I then start to realize that's actually a lot of respect when a team is on the road. Like you have to remember that. I don't know that Illinois' home crowd is giving them that many points in terms of the spread, but it's still just it's like a psychological thing of like, oh, you're getting a team with points at home. All right, I scrolled past a few games that I think are kind of no names, and I went straight to Nebraska and Colorado. I feel like this is a pretty big game for the night slate. I looked ahead at this game and I tweeted it a week or two ago, I think. And I love Nebraska in a revenge spot here, -6.5. It's up to -7. I'm getting a little bit of cold feet. I'm not really leaning into it quite as much as I thought I was going to initially a couple weeks ago, but I still think I like Nebraska. I didn't watch any Nebraska, and Steak, you told me when we were recapping that their quarterback looked pretty good. There's reason to be excited. I know he's like a mini Pat Mahomes or something. I hate to say it, like I'm a Matt Rule college guy. I liked him when he went to the Panthers. I bought into the Panthers. Obviously, that was fucking stupid. Not an NFL guy. I'm a Matt Rule college guy. Nebraska lost so many heartbreaking games last year. I think it kind of flips for them this year. I like a revenge game against Nebraska. That was an embarrassing showing last year when they got their ass kicked in Colorado. I don't like laying 7. I think the atmosphere is going to be fucking rocking. I'm not that into Colorado. Like I'm not that scared of them. So the number's not really going to spook me off. I think Nebraska can win this game by more than a touchdown. Total's 58.5. The over looks a little juiced. Am I getting duped here? Steak, do you like anything in this game?
I really don't. I think I got cute because I saw so much NDSU love that I bet Colorado last week. I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to watch these games and watch everyone go to war on Twitter about Colorado because it's honestly really fun. But I just think that if you're a gambler who loves college football, you can just lay off these Colorado games because I think they're hard to get reads on. I think the defense is awful. I don't think there's any way around Colorado's defense being horrible. Mm-hmm. But like, I just haven't seen enough of Dylan Raiola to be able to guarantee that he's going to torch this defense. Yeah. And bro, nobody wants to talk about it, but the Colorado offense looked pretty damn good. And they have weapons for sure. And I'm not dying to fade them, like I think a lot of people are. And this is a stay away game for me for sure, but I'm really excited to watch it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling. Like I still might put a unit on Nebraska, but I'm certainly not going anything heavy. Jovan, what do you think about this one?
I'm going to be on the Buffs.
Wow, but that is not what I expected you to say.
Yeah, this game has been weird to me, even like since we've been talking about like win totals in the offseason. My gut has been telling me Buffs in this game. And after the first game too, like I don't feel any less confident because Raiola is fucking awesome. He looked great, and I think he can be great. The problem is he takes very, very long to develop his reads, which is not a bad thing, like when you're talking about a defense that's as bad as Colorado's is, but it's a little concerning to buy in week one. The thing that I feel like nobody talks about too about this game, as bad as the Colorado defense is, the Nebraska secondary is not much better. So like the defensive line and the front seven is better, but the secondary is not much better. So I really don't have any hope that they're going to be stopping Travis Hunter and Jimmy Horn and all those guys. Like I think this is a back and forth game that lands within a touchdown personally.
You know, the one thing I was thinking too, usually a high total makes me like the big favorite. You'd imagine those points come from the team that's favored to win. But in this situation, I actually think 58.5 is kind of high, especially for a game in Lincoln, Nebraska. And it makes me scared that if you like Nebraska to win, you would think their defense would have success against Colorado's offense and stopping them and shutting them down. 58.5 point total kind of tells me that we're getting scoring for both teams. So I don't like that. I still might get there with Nebraska. Steak, just remind me again. You said this is a stay away and you're just going to watch.
It's a stay away, but I don't think 58.5 seems high. I think you could argue it feels just right. But like I said, there isn't a soul in the world who believes Colorado is going to stop Nebraska at all. I don't think it seems high. As a matter of fact, I bet you mostly everyone who bets a total on this game would bet the over.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's it's around what the NDSU game was. I know it like closed, I think, a little lower than this, but it was 60 for like most of the day. It's like seeing that right up there, I think is pretty interesting.
Me too.
I don't know that there's ever been a total. I mean, we're almost to 60. Has there ever been a 60 in Nebraska ever? I don't know. Not even with Eric Crouch.
This ain't your daddy's Nebraska.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I do have to remember that. All right, fair enough. 2 more games. It's coming up on 12:15. By the way, if you guys have to jump, I think I'll speed this up, make sure we're done by 12:30. But feel free to take off, Jovan. I know there's no BTL today, right?
Yeah, I'm chill.
Okay, cool. There's 2 games that are kind of catching my eye. I didn't even really know these matchups existed, but Oklahoma, Houston, and Clemson, Appalachian State. I sort of want to talk about it, even though if we don't have anything on either of these games. Oklahoma laying 29. This is a team that I think we were all on pretty heavily last year. They came out, they won 51-3 in their opener against Temple. Houston looks like they didn't cover the spread. What did they do? They were favored to win and they lost by 20 points to UNLV. I'm just wondering, is Oklahoma is nobody really talking about this team other than fucking Primer, who thankfully I haven't seen so far yet today. I don't really know that I'm hearing anybody love Oklahoma this year. Now, I'm not saying that means that they're, running to bet Houston plus 29 in this game, but could Oklahoma just sort of be one of those teams that like we look back and we wish we sort of took advantage of? That maybe you in a way are like kind of buying low on, but I know that's weird to say as a 29-point favorite. Is there, and again, I'm not specifically talking about this game, but is there anything to look for in Oklahoma long-term? Steak, do you like anything about Oklahoma?
In this game or long-term?
Long-term.
I'm not, I'm just completely indifferent, but on this game, I do think everybody and their mom would bet Oklahoma after curb stomping Temple, and Houston is -3, which hands up, I fucking bet Houston, and they lose by 20 as 3-point favorites. I don't think there's a soul in the world that would press the button on Houston in this game. Nobody.
Okay, fine. Jovan, do you like anything about Oklahoma long term?
Well, I have their over win total, so
I actually did not know that.
Yeah. So I mean, that was a very popular under, at least in the house here, from what we were talking about preseason. So like I like them, and Houston looks not. He's 100% right. Like not a soul is going to bet Houston. The thing that I can't get with fading Oklahoma, early in the season, especially now, is because they have Jackson Arnold, who they need to get reps with. They have an offensive line who they need to get reps with, and they have pretty deep both wide receiver room and running back room. So like they have a lot of incentive to run up the score, which is why like I took Oklahoma against Temple, and I was very scared about doing it, looking at the feed before the game. But in reality, like they have to get reps with this team before all the big boy games start. So it may look easy, but I really don't see a world where Houston's competitive.
I don't either. I think I like Oklahoma, even though if it ends up being chalk, I think that's the way I lean. And then what are we doing about Clemson? Are we staying away from them? 17-point favorites at home against Appalachian State, who they've always got, a brand of football that's tough and competitive and gritty. And, everybody is totally out on Clemson, which I can't blame them on. Is this a get right spot? Total at 53? I mean, that seems high. for a team that just scored 3 points. Granted, it was against Georgia's defense, but let's see. Appalachian State, well, they put up 38. I guess they won 38-10. That game had a 58 total and went under. I don't know. I don't know that I'm going to do it. I don't want to donate fucking money to the Dabo fund anymore, but I would like Clemson or nothing in this game. Do you guys agree or disagree or have absolutely nothing?
Not betting it, but Clemson or nothing for me as well.
Okay.
Yeah, especially considering they have a bye week before NC State. And it's not a direct sandwich spot game. It feels like a bounce back. And I would agree the total seems a little high.
Okay. Oh, I skipped.
Appalachian State will always be a darling.
Yep, I agree. I skipped a game, by the way. I didn't even realize, and I'm glad I caught this. North Carolina State and Tennessee. I've got NC State's over win total. I know it was very trendy. I ended up just going with it and sacking up with everybody. They let's see. Tennessee, I know, Steak, we were talking about in the recap. You said Nico looks fucking awesome. We got a little cause for concern there. NC State was a 32.5-point favorite. Didn't even come close to covering.
Really bad.
They looked really bad?
Really bad.
They maybe looked worse than anybody I can think of.
You have like the big favorites that kind of sold the bag. I mean, I would say NC State far and away looked the worst.
Weren't they losing in the third quarter?
They were losing for a while that game.
Yeah. It's just one of those things. Like I know you can argue contrarian gambling just isn't as successful as it was a few years ago, but this to me is the most contrarian spot on the board.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. Neutral site. It's in Charlotte. NC State looks like Tennessee was 5.5 up to 7.5. Yeah, I was worried if NC State comes around to burning all of us, it's because everybody loved Grayson McCall going to NC State. What about South Carolina?
Also, I want to mention because people are like, "Oh, Charlotte, it's in North Carolina." Tennessee is going to be in that bitch 80-20 probably.
Yeah,
fan wise,
absolutely. All right, Jovan, it sounds like you kind of agree. NC State's a contrarian spot, although I don't know that you're going to be betting it.
I can't bet it because I'm a little scared. The one reason I didn't get down with Grayson McCall is because he played at Coastal Carolina, which is a very niche offense, which he was great in. So, like, I was a little worried that in a completely new system, maybe he wouldn't be that guy. So I'm a little concerned he might be DJU, which is the problem.
Oh, fuck.
So I don't want to get there. I want to see it. He has to show me first.
You never want to hear that. Never want to hear that about a team that you invested in. Okay. Yeah, I'm not doing it. You already invested. There's no need to get down, in my opinion, if I've already got something on this. Do either of you guys have a play in Texas Tech, Washington State? Texas Tech was a 1.5-point favorite, but it's flipped. Washington State is a short favorite now at home. Looks like we had a couple decent late night games, and then we're going to wrap it up here. It's probably 3 or 4 more games to talk about. I've got nothing. Total 65.5. Overs juiced. I feel like that's a lot of respect for Texas Tech. Am I wrong here?
I feel like it's a lot of respect for Washington State.
Texas Tech to open up as a favorite on the road, though?
On the road, Washington State, who lost their entire offense, and Texas Tech has isn't he like a 6-year quarterback now? Shu or whatever?
No, Shu's gone.
Who's the quarterback for Texas Tech?
Morton. But Texas Tech, I mean, they should have lost outright to Abilene Christian last week. He had 50 points.
Oh, my God.
Oh, I'm not going to lie. That is one I did not catch.
Yeah. That game. I mean, ridiculous.
You need 10 TVs, bitch.
Finally found what I missed. Okay.
Jen, are you fading the most obvious overs in college, or are you sticking to the NFL with that? I mean, this far and away, I would say that.
I would prefer to do it in college than the NFL. I haven't decided yet. I mean, I was going to give it maybe a week or two and wait and see. It's not usually something I jump out of the gate with. It's kind of in the later half of the year. But you're telling me that this is the most obvious over. I mean, Washington State just put up 70. They did allow 30 to fucking nobody, but you're telling me Texas Tech
and Abilene Christian combined for over 100 points.
Oh, my God.
And what did Portland State and Washington State score?
70-30. So both teams had 100 points.
Oh, my God.
60.5 up to 65.5.
Oh, my God.
66.5. Sorry.
That could be the most disgusting bet on the board.
That's gross. Oof. Not even going to recommend it, but I was just curious if you were going to get there.
What time's this game?
10 o'clock.
I'm going to have such a good buzz, and I'm going to put an obnoxious number on.
Bro, buzz at 10 o'clock. I'm going to be fucking getting right in my REM around that time. That'll be perfect. Yeah, this sounds like a good game to bet the under, not watch a second of, and then wake up in the middle of the night to piss and see it's like 28-24, 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and you're just sweating the last couple of possessions, hopefully.
Or,
all right.
or 70-67.
Yeah. Or 70-67, right, in the second quarter. Boise State, Oregon. I feel like this is a game that we kind of have to touch on. And again, there's only just probably two more. But we talked about it again with Oregon not really doing much against Idaho, 24-14. I think it's overblown. Now they're a big favorite against Boise State. You know they got this game on deck. Dan Lanning's a smart coach. I highly doubt they were going to show the playbook. Boise State scored a ton of points, but they also allowed a ton of points. Spread feels like it probably is where it should be. Oregon is an off-season darling. I know everybody likes them to make some noise in the Big 12 this year. It does seem like this, if this opener is accurate, 24.5 down to 19.5. I would buy low if that's the case, and I would be on Oregon here, minus 19.5. Steak, you're an Oregon guy. Are you doubling down?
I like Oregon, and I'm not line reading in this at all. I'm just strictly making a football brain play, and I think that Boise State showed that there's no possibility they have the defense to stop Oregon. And while I do think they could put up some points, I don't think the quarterback exudes offensive firepower to me. And I think if Oregon goes up 21-0 quick, you kind of have to abandon the best part of Boise State's offense, which is the running game. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the huge issue is if you put this kid, why am I blanking on the quarterback's name? Because is it Malachi Nelson?
Or are you talking about the backup? Yeah.
No, the starter. What's his name? I'm blanking. Yeah, I just don't know that I want him throwing a billion times a game down 21-0 to Oregon. I'm not saying that it's a guarantee that's how it starts, but that's certainly how I see it.
Fair. Jovan, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I like Oregon too. I don't know that I'm going to get there. And I don't want to give them a pass for last week, but Idaho is not a bad FCS team. And they're also always really good defensively. And not that Oregon is Cal, but last year I witnessed Idaho go up 17-0 at Cal in week 2 of the season. So they've been here before and done that. So it's not like they're I don't know, whoever New Hampshire, UCF played or whatever. So I think this is going to be a get right game. And Jake's 100% right. If they can outrun the ball with Aston JT, and that's not the backbone of their offense because they're going to be down, it's a little scary to think about.
Okay. Last few on the board, and then we can wrap it up, gentlemen. Again, thank you both for your time. This has been great. Mississippi State, Arizona State, Utah State, USC. If anybody has anything, feel free to just throw it out. The only thing coming to my mind is maybe a little bit of a letdown spot for USC. I myself included, I'm over here thinking Miller Moss might be that fucking guy. That was an awesome win for USC, a 7.5 win total. What did they ended up closing 4 points? I think, but they were a 6-point dog on a neutral. Winning outright is a great start to the year. But on that note, let me just see real quick. Yeah, they got at Michigan on deck next week. I think I might fade USC and then take them at Michigan. That might be what I do. Go ahead, Steak. You got your finger up?
No, I don't have my finger up.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not going to fade USC. Obviously, I can't. I think the game I could see being funky for a team who had a big win last week was Notre Dame.
Oh, we didn't even really talk about them. That you're going to fade Notre Dame?
I just can see them struggling more than I can see USC struggling.
Well, that's a Notre Dame signature move, by the way. The Notre Dame special is having a good win or a good team, and then having a letdown the following week.
Yeah, you know what the big play for Notre Dame is? Not even this game, but they play Miami, Ohio. I think in a week or two after this, 2 weeks maybe, because they actually have a good defense. That's the game that I feel like is going to be the classic Notre Dame 1916 win for no reason.
Okay. All right. I like that. Mississippi State and Arizona State. Did you guys have any thoughts on this? I don't know that I'm really going to force it. Oh, Utah State, USC at 64, not seem high.
To say that oversold everybody alive. And now that total being where it is, I feel like it's pretty interesting because all we've heard about, Miller Moss is legit and USC actually has a defense, and Utah State's strolling in late night with a very similar total. Not a huge fan of their quarterback, but he was at Utah, so he's seen them before in the Pac-12. So yeah, I will be taking this over.
Okay. I
Hard
don't
to
have
argue with
anything
that.
else. We did talk about Tennessee, NC State. None of us really like a side, but we did mention that NC State might be the most contrarian play. All right, nothing else really here to discuss. It's not the most beautiful slate of college football, but again, as we discussed, there's some interesting spots that I think I'm going to attack. My POD, it's going to be Army. I am a little bit nervous, though. The one thing would be the running ability and the athleticism of, is it what's his name? Fincher. Fancher. Yeah, the quarterback for FAU, although not very good. But Steak, your POD is going to be
Virginia Tech.
God, it's Virginia Tech, isn't it? Jesus Christ. Jovan, what is your favorite bet of week 2?
That Pitt Cincy over, and not to be COV god, but I mean, I got it at 59. It's at 63 now, which I didn't really expect, but I feel like that one's flying regardless.
Cash it.
Yeah, cash it.
No, that's actually really impressive though, because I mean 4 points is significant. I never make bets very early in the week, especially for college football.
I don't either, but we were recording the college football show that we have, and I usually don't like to say anything unless I've already got money on it. It's like I forced myself to lock it in very early, and it wasn't like because I thought the line was going to go up, but it's because I tapped in on play.
Yeah, that's fair. I find myself doing that, and you know what? You kind of have to hold yourself accountable, because I talk about a bet or a team that I like a lot, and then a couple days later, the time will come, I'll cool off on them. For example, like Nebraska, I haven't punched that in, and I tweeted it like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, dibs on my POD. And so if I am going to talk about a team, like I should already punch Army in right now, because you can't backtrack if you're like super into something, I guess is what I'm saying. With too many eyes and ears on you. So, all right. Well, good shit, gentlemen. Thank you very much for Jovan. Appreciate you hopping on, man. That was great. Steak, thanks for joining. I will see you tomorrow. Jovan, I guess there's no BTL, but when do you guys return? Tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yeah.
You'll be back tomorrow? All right. Good shit. Thank you guys. 2 hours on the dot. W college football stream. We will we'll shut it down. Thank you, Steak. Thank you, Jovan.
See you, boys.
Appreciate it.
See you guys. I went to FAU. They're probably the worst football team in the country. Yeah, I mean, I wish they didn't cover against Michigan State, unfortunately, but I guess that's more of a Michigan State thing and not so much of an FAU thing. Utah State, USC. Oh yeah, we did touch on that. WCLV. Yep, that was fun. Thanks. You're very welcome, Tati. Anna. That's me acknowledging the underscore there. W's, thank you, Only Capper. W Stream, thank you, Brock, as always. W Stream, thank you, Goots. We did have a couple sub banks. Lord J666, 14 months. I need sweeps this weekend. I don't know who doesn't. Shamway 69, 16-monther sub bank. Appreciate you. One of one with a new follow. Thank you, one of one. If you're watching, by the way, on YouTube or Twitch, please hit the follow or subscribe button. I did get a not good corp text during that middle of that stream, which I was very much into, and I'm sorry if it threw off my rhythm or vibe at any point, but I think I did a good job pushing through and bouncing back. Steak was great. Jovan was great. I love hearing their thoughts, and thank you to you guys for contributing. I know it's not easy taking time out of your day in the morning or the afternoon, but if you are just listening because you're corp and you're at your cubicle or doing whatever you got to do with an AirPod in, I do appreciate you tuning in. By the way, if there's any feedback or anything you guys want to have for this show, feel free. I think I did a good job of kind of getting right to it today. Not so much of a recap or shooting the shit. Oh no, I'm sorry. There's recap. Yes. Not so much shooting the shit and dilly-dallying, because I knew we had a lot to get to. 78 fucking games. It's a lot of games. We talked about almost all of them. Skipped a few of the nonsense ones, but the last thing I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to sign off, or I'll rate someone, is go to the website and thedegenerateweekly.com. There it is. Well, on the website, you can subscribe to the newsletter for free. There's an option to pay. You do not have to pay. I just want to make sure there's no confusion there. Some people do pay, and again, we appreciate it very much for supporting our work. The newsletter will be out Friday morning in your inbox to whatever email you put in there, and we'll have our best bets. Steak and I put all of our best bets and our reasonings for them for college, and then me, Steak, and Greg will have our best bets in the NFL. I'm going to try to do an NFL space with Mid-Major Matt tomorrow night, although it might have to be a different time than we originally thought about, because I might have to be corp now. Got some shit coming up. So I really liked it. I like to hear opinions from a lot of different people because it gives me better insights to the play. W Brock T, thank you for the feedback. W Sick Money. Go eat chickpeas. Chickpeas mac and cheese. That's called Bonza pasta. Yeah, Bonza is great. Wednesday is such a bullshit day of the week. Yep. Quick. Blue Jays or Phillies. I shut it down for baseball, man. I tried to end my season on a high note. I was down 48 units total, not in the season, total on MLB after tracking for 3 seasons, and I got it back up to down like 9 or 10, I think. So a nice 38 unit run. I got to end it on a high note. I'll be back for next season. It's all football right now. All football. Mike Catherman, Subbank, 2 years. That sounds like something dirty, doesn't it? All right, W pause. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate it. By the way, we're gonna do a Sunday morning stream for the NFL. It's gonna be Underdog, presented by Underdog, and we're gonna be putting together a daily. Sunday afternoon 1 p.m. parlay. I'm gonna probably not gonna go crazy, but I'm probably gonna do a 3-legger. I already have my guys in mind. Stake's going to be on. We'll figure out a time. It kind of depends on my work schedule, which hopefully I'll know by tomorrow or Friday. But Sunday morning, anyone like BYU? Nice, Jake MLB. You're 2 hours and 40 minutes late. But Sunday morning, be on the lookout for the Twitch stream, and we'll talk to you guys then. If you're on MLB, what we taking tomorrow? What we talking tomorrow? We're going to talk NFL tomorrow. Thursday Night Football, baby. Clapping cheeks for 2 years. W, Mike Catherman. All right, guys, I'm going to shut it down. Have a great day. Good luck on all your bets, and I will chat with you tomorrow. Board review, 10:30 a.m. Thank you, Book of Chew, by the way. Appreciate you. Welcome home. It's good to be back. I think I'm at like 75%. Jet lag is real. Don't listen to Taylor Swift. She went viral for saying jet lag is a choice. That's bullshit. Jet lag hurts. I'm old. Yeah, I like the Chiefs. POD Pete's on the under. I kind of respect that too. We'll talk about it tomorrow. All right, NFL and maybe mid-major space in the evening. Have a great day. Good luck on